Back to the top of the sport, and he's now on a big Pro Tour. Well, it's not a Pro Tour team, but he's on a Tour de France team.
We're on the Col de Fontaube at the moment, which is a 4.7 kilometres climb. It's only fourth category, so it's not very steep. As we go across into the Vaucluse, we'll be briefly in the department of the Drôme, which is where we started in Montélimar today, and then we'll finish in the Vaucluse on the daddy of them all, Mont Ventoux. A lot of cyclists going in just about every direction around Provence this morning when we arrived here, all choosing where they would go and the best way for them to climb up to the top of Mont Ventoux. There are in fact 3 ways up the mountain that I know of. Some people say there are 4 different roads get you up onto the top. So we're looking here as they come over the top of the climb, and that is I think it's Simon Spilak from Lampre who's just gone over the top. Just have a look there. That's where we are now, just on the top of the climb, the race position, and there's still a third category. We're getting there's Mont Ventoux in the background. Of course, the way we go around Provence now is we circumnavigate Mont Ventoux to climb up it from the other side today. Still a lot of racing to be done, but we are in the second half of the competition now for the day's racing. But it's the last few hundred meters that is going to decide this race today.
Time trial is special. You go on the start line, you are alone, and you have to perform. Specialized bike fitting was here to get something better out of me. Sometimes you ride, but maybe with the wrong position, and this little bit was changed, even when it's only 1 second out of 1 hour race. I want to get the best out of myself, and I want to get the best out of my bike.
The relationship you have with your car isn't so different from your other relationships. Some burn hot and fast, but don't last very long. Some burn for a while, but don't throw much heat. And some smolder beautifully for a long time.
The award-winning Cadillac CTS sedan. And coming soon, the all-new CTS Sport Wagon.
This is what you use for maximum performance on the racetrack.
Awesome job.
And this is what you use for maximum performance off the track. Extends is the ultimate male enhancement. Over 1 billion tablets of Extends have now been taken by men. Have you ever wondered what you might be missing out on by not trying Extends? What have all those men discovered that you haven't? Extends can really increase a man's size, pleasure, and performance.
For maximum performance, rely on Extends.
There are moments in life when there are no limits, no boundaries, no walls. That the rules of gravity just don't apply. Because there is no statute of limitations on greatness.
Welcome to Empire, Colorado, the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park, Winter Park, and Grand Lake. Empire is a small, friendly town steeped in history and nature. See the original Hard Rock Cafe. Experience unique shops, award-winning restaurants, and local artists. Or stay at the Peck House, the oldest operating hotel in the state. There's great hiking, biking, four-wheeling, and the extreme sport of mountain boarding. Empire, Colorado, in the heart of Clear Creek County. Nearby and near perfect.
TNT Wednesdays. We know drama excites with a new season of Leverage and the biggest heist yet.
Go get him, Tiger.
To stick up for the little guy.
I wasn't the mastermind. I'm the bait.
They've mastered the stick up.
Next time we won't be so nice.
Leverage is all new Wednesdays at 9, followed by an all-new episode of Dark Blue, only on TNT.
Take a break. Break to Breck this summer and save 20% off lodging when you book any outdoor activity at break2breck.com. For the best lodging deals around, break away at break2breck.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Anker Sørensen from Denmark, and I'm riding a Specialized bike here in the Tour de France. I think it's probably the best bike I've ever ridden. It's really good in descending in the cornering and still pretty light, really light, and feels really stiff. So when I accelerate, I feel the power going down in the pedals and go into speed. It's my first time in the Tour de France, and I really loved it so far.
Yes, his nickname amongst the team is the Anchor. He's a really solid bike rider when they want someone to chase the brakes down. He's working up at the front at the moment, Chris Anker Sorensen, along with the rest of his Saxo Bank team. Big responsibilities today. Their job is to get Saxo Bank's Frank Schleck and Andy Schleck to the bottom of their Mont Ventoux, and then hope they can look after themselves with the attacks which are sure to come from Astana as well as from Garmin Slipstream. And maybe also Vincenzo Nibali, the Italian on the Liquigas squad, as he sits in 7th place, enjoying his best Tour de France as well. That's Albert Timmer on the front at the moment, setting the pace here as we continue along. Number 76 there is Tony Martin. He's had, as you know, he led in that white jersey best young riders competition for nearly 2 weeks. Then he found the Alps were a bit too hard for him. He got very tired. He's now lost 55 minutes, but he is the best placed in the breakaway.
But remember that name, because I think Tony Martin is a rider who will have come to this Tour de France field to learn. He's learned a lot about himself, and of course he's learned a lot about the mountains, and he will come back in the future as a rider, quite possibly finishing inside of the top 10. It's starting to get a little bit grippy out in the field there, because just having a quick check in at Chris Anker Sorensen's heart rate, it's up to almost 160 beats a minute. 282 watts is what they're developing on this climb that they're ascending at around about 15 miles an hour. So once you start to get up to 300 watts, you really are starting to press on those pedals quite a bit.
Well, just looking here at the pack here, and just thinking about the pressure they must be feeling here. Andy Schleck is of the feeling that Lance Armstrong should be worried about him rather than he should be worried about Lance Armstrong. Certainly the mountain will not hold any real shocks to Andy Schleck, and Lance won't quite know what's coming his way. So as we watch here, Stuart O'Grady, what a brilliant strong man he is, from Australia. He comes from Adelaide. Now don't forget, Cadillac Ride of Your Life sweepstakes, versus.com/Ride of Your Life. Play the game with us. You could win a trip for 2 to next year's Tour de France and Cervelo S2 bicycle. You could also win a yellow jersey or a mountains jersey, like we use in the Cadillac Performance Predictions, and that will be signed by us. Today's code word is attack. Quite a few riders better start thinking that way in the next hour or so. Extended coverage of what is the last great stage of this year's Tour de France before the ceremonial entry onto the Champs-Élysées, then the final race around those most hallowed cobblestones in Europe. This is Provence. This is a beautiful area indeed. It's a cycling mecca. Throughout the year you're almost guaranteed beautiful weather, but you're also almost guaranteed the wind as well, especially around the base of Mont Ventoux. We awoke this morning not too far away from Mont Ventoux, and I saw the trees bending, and we were almost at ground level, so I could only imagine what it would be like on the top, and my worst dreams realized. 70-mile-an-hour gusts of wind on the top. Awful lot of racing still to come as we head to Ventoux.
I was afraid. I was petrified.
Kept thinking that each meeting meant
that I would have to fly.
But then I spent so many nights
reading emails way too long.
Then I grew strong.
Network video came along, and so I'm back.
No time to waste. Just click the mouse and get things done.
See people face to face.
I should have changed things long ago.
This technology saved the day.
More collaboration, less complication. That's the human network effect. Learn more at cisco.com/newways.
Wow. 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 It's the WOW sale.
Get your WOW at Trek dealers. WOW prices on bikes. WOW savings on accessories and gear. Save big now through the end of the tour and win.
Win Lance's bike.
Win my bike. You can win my bike and other great Trek prizes.
Scratch and win every day online or at your local dealer.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Every day.
Save big. Win big now. July 17th through the 26th at Trek dealers. Get your WOW.
Hi, there aren't any towels in my room.
Continue.
Friendly service. Real value from your friends at Hampton.
Karen was finally headed home. Make that the video store.
If she had Netflix, she could keep her DVDs for as long as she wants. Take the drama out of renting.
Netflix. Unlimited movies for $8.99 a month.
12 summers of boat hauling, 6 minutes to soccer practice, 63 miles of commuting daily. For any extreme, from the road to the racetrack, nothing beats Mobil 1, the official motor oil of NASCAR, and the choice of over half of all NASCAR teams. So put some NASCAR in your car with the One, Mobil 1.
Things that matter to me are worth covering well.
So when I'm insuring my car, I'm really covering so much more.
With coverage that's smart when I buy it and smarter when I need it.
Join the thousands of us getting better auto coverage at a better price under the Travelers umbrella.
Get better coverage with Travelers and save an average of $383. To find an agent near you or to get a quote, visit Travelers.com or call 1-800-MY-COVERAGE.
Usain Bolt is the fastest man on earth. And Tyson Gay wants his title back.
The 2009 Tour de France on Versus is brought to you by Travelers Insurance. Get better coverage at Travelers.com or call 1-800-MY-COVERAGE.
Welcome back. The Peloton has picked up the tempo here now. They're starting to chip away at some of the seconds, dropping off from that breakaway group of 16 that was over 10 minutes. It's now approaching the 9-minute margin. This is the bunch going over the top now of the climb of the Col de Ventoux. And I've made the gap there 9 minutes and 32 seconds. Well, Andy Schleck in his white jersey is down there. He is riding a Specialized bike. That's sponsors are part of the team sponsorship. So now we can have a closer look at the bike that Andy Schleck rides.
We're here with Team Saxo Bank's Andy Schleck, winner of the white jersey last year in the Tour de France. Earlier this year, you guys run the Specialized SL2, but now new for the Tour de France, you guys run the SL3. Can you tell me a little bit about what that ride is like?
It does look much different than the other bike, but it's definitely much stiffer and more comfortable because it have a thinner frame in the back, so it's more comfortable sitting, and well, it's lighter. It's too bad I have to put some extra weight, 300 grams of lead on the bike to be in the UCI rules, but
it's crazy when you have to add weight to a bike to make it into the UCI rules, but it's 100 grams lighter. It has carbon cups, the internal ribbing to make it torsional stiffer, and you're a light guy. So can a bike be too stiff, or does the SL3 still ride comfortable?
I think it's really comfortable bike. Of course, the bike can be too stiff, and you can have problems to steer it in the downhill. But that's what's so good on Specialized. They find the right middle way. Just good for me.
Thanks, Andy. And obviously one of the great climbers here at the Tour de France. He'll be trying to repeat for the white jersey, and he's going to be doing it on the Specialized SL3.
Looks pretty safe. He's looking for a yellow jersey as well today for Andy Schleck. He sits in second place. It's amazing, isn't it? You build a bike and it's too light, and so you have to put weights on it to make it comply with the rules of international cycling. There is a lightness limit on the bike manufacturers laid by the world body. So there's the Peloton snaking through beautiful Provence as we go from Vaucluse back into the Drôme. Drawing steadily up to the Saxo rider here, Stuart O'Grady. The red jersey, the champion of Switzerland, is Fabian Cancellara, who could not believe he'd been beaten by Alberto Contador in that time trial last Thursday around Lake Annecy. He'll be the next pacemaker, but Stuart will stay up here for as long as possible, keeping the pace high, doing a good job now. That breakaway is no longer pulling away. 9 minutes 14 seconds.
Setting up into fourth place, Andy Schleck riding like the leader of the team, getting ready to rally his troops. The third rider in that line is Gustav Larsen, a very good individual time trialist. Second to his own teammate Fabian Cancellara, who you can see there in the red jersey, and the Olympic Games last year. We've got the small climbs behind us now, the two first three category climbs, and the fourth. There's a third category climb to come, and then the big climb of the day at the end. A little chat there between these two experienced professionals, Cancellara on the right-hand side and O'Grady on the left.
Just checking on how far to go there, Stuart. Well, he's been this way before, of course, having ridden the Tour de France 13 times. There's the flag of the Pirate, and memories perhaps of the day Marco Pantani beat Lance Armstrong to the line, although Lance appeared to let him win that day in the year 2000. You can see the flags now from Flanders and Belgium there, straight across the ride. It's across to tail just now, the wind for the riders. That's favourable. It'll swing a little bit as we circumnavigate Mont Ventoux.
You know, that is horrible for the riders in this field, Phil, because all of the time now, as long as they keep looking over to their right-hand shoulders, they will always see the Mont Ventoux, knowing that they've got to get themselves around there. There's no secret about the fact for the last 10 minutes there's only one team been doing the pacemaking on the front end of the main field. It's Team Saxo Bank.
Well, the leaders out there, Hayden Rolston, Mikel Delage, there's a lot of them, as Ruben Perez, Tony Martin is best placed at 55.39 down. Jeslan Gutierrez, Samuel Dumoulin, Daniel Rigi. Rigi's just won the last climb. Bonnet and Bouet, sounds like a firm of solicitors. Lemoine and Albert Timmer. Timmer's also been riding well in the mountains, but the man who's leading that competition, Franco Pelazzotti, no longer contesting the points. He can't be caught. So as the riders now are nailing these men and keeping them just where they want them, it'll be showdown time, I reckon, on the slopes of Mont Ventoux itself. That's where we're going, and it's a beautiful hot day, a little bit windy. See you in a minute.
Performance now is all about knowledge. Knowing you're driving the #1 selling car in its class. Knowing you're driving what Car and Driver named a 10 best for an unmatched 18th year in a row. And knowing that right now, BMW is offering exceptional programs to help you do so. Performance now is the 3 Series. Visit your local BMW center today for a test drive.
Tonight, go catch more than a movie. Or make plans to chart the uncharted. Go tackle nature. Just be ready for it to tackle back. Save on the gear to get it done at Bass Pro Shops, like Redhead canvas utility shorts for only $12.94 and Thermacell mosquito repellent for just $14.94. Bass Pro Shops, your adventure starts here. Make plans now for the Bass Pro Shops Fall Hunting Classic.
Nanomolecular what? A force field that prevents sludge.
Tired of the claims? Get a guarantee. Only Valvoline guarantees your engine up to 300,000 miles. Get Valvoline. Get guaranteed.
I built this perfect breakfast. I didn't spend much money, but my tummy thinks I did.
Only at Denny's.
Sporting Clays is a blast, especially at Colorado Clays, the premier shooting range in the state. Just 5 miles north of DIA, it has 8 voice-controlled trap fields, 2 skeet fields, 2 wobble traps, and a 15-station Sporting Clays course. Open to the public, Colorado Clays can also stage corporate events. We love new shooters. Instruction is available along with rental guns. Visit the Colorado Clays website for more information, and I'll see you at the range.
Welcome to Empire, Colorado, the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park, Winter Park, and Grand Lake. Empire is a small, friendly town steeped in history and nature. See the original Hard Rock Cafe. Experience unique shops, award-winning restaurants, and local artists. Or stay at the Peck House, the oldest operating hotel in the state. There's great hiking, biking, four-wheeling, and the extreme sport of mountain boarding. Empire, Colorado, in the heart of Clear Creek County. Nearby and near perfect.
Yeah, get in people's faces. I've been doing this for 18 years. I deserve the respect just like anybody else. This isn't miniature golf. We're out there with 1,500 pounds of metal around us, strapped onto it like a missile. Some girls went to prom. I went to the racetrack.
Now, Versus wants you to decide who is the toughest athlete. Is it Lance Armstrong and his 7 Tour de France titles? Michael Phelps with 14 Olympic goals? Iron Mike Tyson's 44 knockouts? Or Miguel Torres' 5-year unbeaten streak? It's up to you. Define tough and log on to versus.com to cast your vote for the toughest athlete. Seat for the peloton here. You can see the wind here blowing through the lavender fields. That's another part of Provence, the beautiful scent of lavender in this time of the year. As the peloton scorched towards Mont Ventoux, they can more or less see it all of the time as they're racing around it to get to the right approach to it. And for the non-climbers, it must be a very strange day. Peloton looking to try and bridge a gap which will not close down, I don't think, until they start the climb of Ventoux itself. Just on 9.25 minutes, Stuart O'Grady, Fabian Cancellara setting the pace just now. It's all Stuart O'Grady, really. Frank and Andy Schleck there at the front too. Beautiful scenery all the way down the road today, as we continue to now head back into the Vaucluse, well into the second half of the race. This is the situation behind. Now it looks as though this won't be allowed, actually, if the referees do see it happening, towing the riders blatantly back to the race. They're supposed to keep moving through the cars and continually making progress, but they've gone back to collect number 61, Mikel Astolosa, and then take him back up to the bunch because he's had a problem. He's not back there because he's tired.
Well, he's had a mechanical problem, and he's trying to get himself back into the main field, but because of the tempo, Phil, being set at the front end of the peloton by Team Saxo Bank and mainly by Stuart O'Grady, it's making it rather difficult to close down those last 10 or 15 seconds. But you can see the main field is only just around the corner.
Yes, they'll balance their opinions, the referees, as to whether they think it's because they're too tired or because they've had a problem, and they'll assess what they would do. It would be a penalty. It could be anything from 10 seconds time penalty to disqualification from the Tour de France, but that won't happen just yet. Into the Vaucluse again now. For the final time, we'll stay in this department right down towards the end, and number 84 is the department number, and the main field, Phil, stretching into an extremely long line now as the pressure is going on. They're not pulling down that gap as rapidly as they probably would like to, especially with the tempo being set by O'Grady and Fabian Cancellara on the front end. But if you're sitting at the back end of that pack, 24 hours away from the Champs-Élysées, you've got to be asking yourself questions at what am I going to do in the next few kilometers, because the climb that they're facing up to is such a legendary climb. Everybody has a story about that climb. It's something that's going to take the winners around about 1 hour to get to the top. The other guys could take between an hour and an hour and 20 minutes. Well, 100% work by Saxo Bank, and it's been this way for quite a while now. We've just gone to the back here. This is Hubert Dupont on the AG2R team, collecting bottles for the boys, and it's his job now to get back in there and find where they are located and get rid of that extra weight if he can. All the orange-clad riders from Euskaltel-Euskadi now back in the field as they now just settle down again. They're picking up a good wind, favourable, and this is pushing them along now, but O'Grady is happy to keep this tempo going and keep this field in a long straight line. The Garmin Slipstream team have now brought their men to the front. They've got those orange tops to their jerseys. They've moved up behind Alberto Contador. Well, it's a big fight for them as well, Phil, because they still believe in the back of their minds that their man Bradley Wiggins, who is 4th overall at the start of the day, has also got a chance of having a crack at the podium. He's not very far behind Lance Armstrong in the overall standings. In fact, only 15 seconds. He lost 4 seconds yesterday when Armstrong very cleverly got into a split on the run in towards the finish and pulled back an extra 4 seconds. So attentive is that man to detail. And that was a difficult way into the finish, and that's why it splits. That's what made Mark Cavendish's sprint victory so much more incredible, and will go down as his finest stage win of the 9 he's got in 2 years of the Tour de France. Quite incredible. Well, I'm just wondering now as to how long they're going to leave Stuart O'Grady on there. The time is just gradually coming down, but that's not the nature of the object at the moment. It's taking the top men to the foot of Mont Ventoux and then let them fight out the final stage of the Tour de France for the victory. Tomorrow we go to Paris. There'll be nobody attacking each other there.
Well, we're just looking down on the remains of this 12th century castle and church, and that goes back. That's the castle and church of Saint-Michel and Saint-Hippolyte, built originally in the 12th century. But as you can see, it's fallen to disarray because in the Middle Ages there was a lot of movement up and down this part of the world as people were trying to defend the vineyards which started to cultivate in around about the 18th, 19th century.
Well, we're going to be treated to these stunning pictures throughout the day here. It is a very fertile region of Provence as we tuck underneath the mountain of Ventoux. Good wine in this area as well. It's usually a white wine from this area, and the Peloton chasing this group of 16. There's nobody in the group, as I've said, that's going to affect the destiny of the jersey. Hayden Ralston up on the left there, riding his first Tour de France for New Zealand, and riding it, I think, very well indeed. There he is. We'll take a break.
Kelly Saunders Nature Valley. The place that inspires her to go faster and slower. Elk Mountains, Colorado. Where's yours? 100% natural Nature Valley granola bars. The taste nature intended.
I always want to do more. Always want to be better. I know without training, without the work, I won't be there, so that's my motivation. The equipment today, the level we are at, it's one of the most important things. We push it and we study it and we tweak it to the highest level possible. My tarmac is the fastest bike I had so far.
The relationship you have with your car isn't so different from your other relationships. Some burn hot and fast, but don't last very long. Some burn for a while, but don't throw much heat. And some smolder beautifully for a long time.
The award-winning Cadillac CTS sedan. And coming soon, the all-new CTS Sport Wagon.
Why do hardwood floors cost less at Lumber Liquidators? At most flooring stores, your floor makes a few stops before you get your order. Lumber Liquidators cuts out the middleman. Come on in. You'll find the quality hasn't been cut, just the prices. Like Bellawood, the premium pre-finished hardwood flooring from $2.99. Supreme bamboo flooring as low as $1.99 a square foot. Hurry in, these deals won't last. Visit lumberliquidators.com or call 1-800-HARDWOOD for a store near you.
It's right here. It's easy. It's the money you could be saving with Geico.
Miguel Angel Torres. Undefeated in 5 years. The best pound for pound in the world. Can undefeated Brian Bowles pose a threat? Ask his last 7 victims. Torres versus Bowles, live Sunday, August 9th, only on Versus.
Every race is a battle, measured in fractions of a second, fought with a philosophy we call system integration, an approach to engineering where every motion of every rider, of every Super 6, is channeled into forward motion to maximize performance. Let the battle begin.
When I grow up, maybe I'll be a singer in a band.
for everyone is here. The Insight, designed and priced for us all, from Honda.
You think the fans on the road to Paris are crazy? Try Jersey Joker on for size. They're riding a bike! It's Fanarchy on Versus, an uprising of real sports fans.
7 times you won. That's enough. He's got nothing to prove.
From their webcams to your TV. Fanarchy on Versus.
Accountability. EC360. At 10 p.m., that's what we're all about. The truth matters. We're keeping them honest. Someone has to. Raw, honest reporting. Anderson Cooper 360, weeknights at 7 p.m. Pacific on CNN.
Brought to you by your neighborhood Toyota store.
Through the years, many things pass from father to son, like Aqua Velva Aftershave. Smells great, cools, firms, and tones. Cool. Aqua Velva, men get it. Wake up your whiskers with Electric Shave. Electric Shave! Stands up whiskers for an up to 52% closer shave.
Man, that was close.
Electric Shave. Blade close. Electric smooth.
I go through life taking in new sensations, temptations, like ones awakened by my McCafe iced mocha. With decadent chocolate and whipped cream sweeping sweetness into my soul, I'm ready to spice things up. Ice cold or steamy hot, I feel ready to take it all on. My McCafe is about setting aside the past and making room for the new. New sensations? I'm all about them.
I think if you really want to grow athletes that can compete against the world's best, you got to be in Europe.
They need to get over here and do these races and be exposed to this level.
In order to keep that momentum going, we need programs like USA Cycling.
Without the help of the national team, we would never be where we are today.
Welcome back. These are the standings in the Tour de France at the start today. Alberto Contador, after 77 hours in the saddle, has pulled out 4 minutes 11 seconds on Andy Schleck, 5:21 Armstrong, 5:36 Wiggins, 5:38 Cloden, and 5:59 Schleck. It has not always been an easy ride for Alberto Contador. He's had plenty of trouble as he's developed as a pro cyclist. Let's learn more.
Bueno, pues fue antes de una carrera en 2004 iba a
Back in 2004, when I was 21 years old,
21 años en el Tour de Francia.
I was going to start in my first Tour de France, and one of the races before, one of the preparation races, was the Tour of Asturias. A few days before the race, I was feeling some headaches, which I'd never had before. And in the first stage, I started in that race. In the first stage, I crashed and fell unconscious. At first, I didn't know what happened. Was this because of the crash, or was it something that happened before the crash? I was taken to the hospital, and there they saw it was an aneurysm. So they did the surgery. It was a success. The only bad memories I have are a big scar on my skull and some metal plates and titanium screws in my head. When I was in the hospital and recovering from my injury and the surgery, it is true that I read Lance's book. It was a big help for me, a big motivation, especially since Lance is my big idol. After the surgery, I started to look at life from another angle. For example, after 7 months of recovery, they told me I could go start riding my bike again and start to train. I was the happiest man in the world. I didn't think about becoming a rider again. I was just happy I could go out on my bike and have fun and enjoy the exercise. So when things get tough for me, and I am suffering and things don't go as I want them to, I can look back at the experiences Lance had when he started again, and it puts everything back into perspective. If something doesn't go right, it is not that important. I'm just happy to be where I am and in good health.
I've been following Contador from when he was an amateur. He's just a natural climber, one of the best I've ever seen.
Yes, and that illness, in fact, for Alberto Contador, when he recovered, he won a stage of the Tour Down Under in 2005, and it's that stage win he rates more than his stage wins in the 2009 Tour de France, because it meant he was back to full health and full strength, and now he looks set to win his second Tour de France. Back with the live action here on Versus then, as the riders continue. This is the breakaway. And again, a big crowd here cheering the riders onward towards the finish as we head towards Mont Ventoux. Seems to be getting closer now. So the riders have now covered 110 kilometers, just on 57 remaining as they continue to go through the villages, and the gap is down to 8:11. The next obstacle on the route, Paul, will be the third category climb of the Col des Abeilles. What's that, the stinging bee or something?
The honeybees, yep. And really, probably because of the amount of lavender. You can see all the lavender fields around here, and they really do need that lavender, and they really do need the honeybees in this area to help to propagate the lavender flowers, and it smells quite wonderful in this part of the world.
Well, this looks like we're going around the area of the Chateau du Puy-Montbrun at the moment, and again, these chateaux are all Roman origin, all splattered all over the Provence. Through the lavender there, you can just about see the words of Provence. That is amazing. I can't make out the last word. But how on earth did they do that?
I think it said the lavender of Provence. Provence de lavendre.
Yes, that
would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
It would make sense.
Logical.
Yeah. As the peloton just they're going right around the base of Mont Ventoux on the race route today to climb it from the backside, from the side we are sitting in the commentary box. And again, this is Chateau du Puy.
That's the Chateau du Puy-Montbrun. You can see it's made up of 4 big towers on either end. It was as a fortress. It was actually razed to the ground in 1580, and the ruins that you're looking at here have been around since the 12th century. There was in fact a fortified building on this site.
And the belfry there, and I'm not sure we can see it, which is the clock tower, is a well-preserved example of the 13th century military architecture. The old defence tower still possesses all of its warlike attributes there, so the riders have got no time to look at that as Samuel Dumoulin continues to drive in the breakaway here, holding at 8:05. But when we last had the race here, the leaders had 11 minutes at the foot of Mont Ventoux, and they were still all wiped away before the summit. At the moment, they're only giving them 8 minutes.
Yeah, but there are not so many great climbers in this breakaway as there were on that occasion in 2002, because in that breakaway was Alexander Bocharov and Richard Virenque, 2 very well-known mountain goats.
Yes, Bocharov was caught, and the last one to be caught was Richard. But didn't quite get to him. He won the stage just in sight of Armstrong.
That's right, and that was he won by a couple of minutes on that occasion. Richard Virenque, and Armstrong, I think, very much regrets that he's never managed to dominate the slopes of this mountain, the Mont Ventoux. Sitting at the back here, the Rabobank rider is Juan Manuel Garate. He's a rider who was formerly the Spanish national champion. You can see he's got the colours of the Spanish flag just on the sleeves of his racing jersey there. If you've been a national champion or a world champion, you have the right to wear the colours of your country's flag or the rainbow bands of champion of the world.
Well, as they course through the trees in a gap of just 8 minutes, we are about 32 kilometres from the foot of the climb of Mont Ventoux. Just on 20 miles to go. We've got the one climb to come, which is third category of the Col des Abeilles. That'll take us over 46 kilometres from the finish, and it's holding at 8¼ minutes now, and riders taking advantage of the drinks. Stuart O'Grady looking a little bit tired now at the front, and I'm not surprised. He stretches out that back because he's done an awful lot of work, and it might be time for Stu to have a rest.
Well, a couple of guys from Saxo Bank have dropped back. I noticed Gustav Larsson going back to the team car to take on board drinks for everybody. Even though we're coming down towards the end of the Tour de France, it's still extremely important to take on board drinks and to keep eating as much as possible, as we now are looking at 7.7 kilometres to the summit of the climb.
8 minutes 24 seconds. The gap as they start the climb here. Just to remind you to take part in our Cadillac Ride of Your Life sweepstakes. Go to versus.com/Ride of Your Life. Chance to win a trip for two with us next year on the Tour de France 2010. The code word you need today is attack. And that's what I think one or two riders feel they must do once we get to Mont Ventoux. So as they continue to course through Provence, we're heading towards that fire. I hope they've got it under control. We have a fire about 20 kilometers from the finish at the moment. The aeroplanes are bombing it with water. While they get on with their job, we'll take a break.
When your engine's running clean, you feel it. And Pennzoil Platinum Motor Oil cleans out up to 46% of sludge in your first oil change and continues to clean in your next change. Feel our ultimate clean. Not just oil, Pennzoil.
Free hot breakfast. Real value from your friends at Hampton.
So, Katie kicked off the conference call.
But we missed the first half trying to download the docs.
It's turned out to be the old new docs rather than the new docs. And bobbed out in from home and his
dog starts barking.
So Jen jumped in with her 2 cents.
Which Katie missed because she was buying shoes online.
Then I hit mute to talk timelines with my team.
Getting lots of dirty looks through the phone in the process.
Overall, a great call. Great call. Yeah.
Introducing a better way. Learn more at cisco.com/newways.
Performance now is all about knowledge. Knowing you're driving the #1 selling car in its class. Knowing you're driving what Car and Driver named a 10 best for an unmatched 18th year in a row. And knowing that right now, BMW is offering exceptional programs to help you do so. Performance now is the 3 Series. Lease a BMW 328i for $349 a month until August 31st.
Wouldn't it be great if it were easy to spot the good guys? You know, the guys who do a super job. Introducing the Super Guarantee. Go to superpages.com to find a business with the Super Guarantee. We're so confident in these super businesses, we stand behind their services. You'll get the job done right, or we'll step in and help to make it right. Sign up for free at superpages.com. The new Super Guarantee, making the good guys easy to find.
And what did you do this weekend, Tommy?
I have been to the Edge and back.
Excuse me?
The Edge Pizza from Pizza Hut is back.
Pizza is about toppings. The Edge has no outer crust. The Edge is toppings that keep toppings on going. That keep right on Taste going. The Edge. I say let go of your crust, my friend, brother, sister. I have been to the Edge and back. Join me.
Go to the Edge. Get a medium for just $9.99. Now you're eating America's favorite pizza. Pizza Hut.
This is Testosterone Theater on Versus, and this is August. Sweaty, steamy August. Awesome sports flicks August. With Van Damme. Hiya.
How'd he do that?
Hiya. Oh, no, he can't see. And Sunday Aggression with McScreamy. And Miss Steamy. Go back to the minors with Men in Lingerie. Makes you uncomfortable. Watch it anyway. It's Man Golf with Costner and Cheech. Swing in water, swing in water, swing after swing. Why won't Cheech stop him? Watch it all on Testosterone Theater on Versus.
Welcome back. The riders are running around here. This is the Alain Chateau, or the Chateau du Pré, I think they call it. It's in very, very good condition here, but of course it goes back to the 15th century. This is where the riders are now. We're just on the slopes of the Col des Abeilles, which takes them up to 3,268 feet. And then we plunge down to the basement, and then we climb up Mont Ventoux itself. We're not far away from that now. This is a 3rd category climb. Of course, Mont Ventoux, a giant, is HC, which means all category or outside category. And it carries maximum points in the King of the Mountains, but that really doesn't matter now because Franco Pelazzotti has won that competition in Paris tomorrow. Well, this is very typical Provence with the red roofs of the village houses here as the riders course through the middle and continue now to hold just about on to that 8-minute lead. Still 16 riders and 52 kilometers to go. Well, as we search across the surface here, at the top of our picture, you probably saw the plume of smoke. That is the fire which is burning in the bush about 20 kilometers from the finish of the Tour today. The peloton now making its way towards Mont Ventoux. It's still got about 28 kilometers before the climb begins, and it's still Stuart O'Grady setting the pace on the front for Saxo Bank.
Followed there by the red jersey of the Swiss national champion Fabian Cancellara. They're getting themselves, they're announcing the colours very early. The team take, there's a bit of a problem here.
What's happened here?
Well, somebody's crashed in the corner there. It could very well be Sandy Cassard or Cyril Lemoine because of the fact that they're waiting for him.
Well, in fact, it's 3 Française de Jeu riders, so it's at the back of the peloton, this.
Well, just having a quick look.
Christophe Lemavelle, the best placed rider from France, in 9th place here. That's why they've stopped.
Yep, Jérémy Roy was the other rider on the ground there, and I think what he did was he actually passed his wheel across to Christophe Lemavelle. Now he's going to try and get himself back into the main field. He doesn't need to panic because the pressure is not really on. It's not a full-on chase at the front end of the main field, but all of these little incidents on a stage like this eat into your energy levels, and he's got to try and collect his morale around him, get himself back into the frame of mind that he's got to hurt on this final climb of the day and try and retain his position as best placed Frenchman.
Countryside of the Sceaux, and that's about where we are around the village of Sceaux just at the moment. Yeah, you're right, Christophe Lemavelle, you don't want those sort of nasty shocks. It was on that twisty descent off the tops there, and the Provence roads have a lot of tight bends on them like this, and now it's 106 is Christophe Lemavelle. And he's ridden really well. He actually climbed up 1 place in the overall classification yesterday, which has moved him up in the top 9 in the Tour de France. He knows he's got a big battle. He's a lot to do now as he continues on towards Mont Ventoux. He doesn't want to waste too much energy having to rejoin the peloton here.
And that's why he's got a teammate pacing him back into the fact that into the bunch. That's Jussi Väikkönen. If you remember, he was the early leader of the King of the Mountain classification in the first week of the Tour de France. They brought another rider back as well to pace him through the main field to make sure that he doesn't use too much of his energy. This is Benoit Voronard, who heard about the incident in the main field. He slipped back to pace back his teammate Lemavelle, who's sitting in 3rd position.
Well, we moved up to the leaders. They're at 5 kilometers from the summit. There's the other rider from Française de Jeu, I think, gave the wheel there to Lemavelle, and he's still standing at the roadside, so he's got a lonely ride now to the finish.
Well, he's got a lonely, hard chase as well to try and get himself back into the main field, but because it's on the slopes of this climb and the main field is setting just a tempo, he may well have a chance of catching up before we get to the start of the Mont Ventoux.
Now looking here at Maxime Bouet on the Agritabel team. As we look also at the peloton, rumours being said around the race that in fact Bryce Feliu, who won on Arcalis and was congratulated on his win there by Lance Armstrong, that Armstrong has asked him to join his new team, Radio Shack, next year. And apparently Bryce Feliu has said, I'd love to come, but I'd like to bring my brother Romain with me, and he hopes to have an answer before the end of the Tour.
Yep, but there's a lot of rumour and innuendo around the Tour de France when it comes down to concerning transfers. Theoretically, those rumours should remain just that. They're not allowed to be officialised until the month of September, October. Again, going through the lavender here, this really is a magnificent backdrop of very, very beautiful colours that the riders are making their way through, and a very serious part of the economy, Phil, in this part of the world.
Yes, and the other part of the economy is the number of tourists who come into this part of the world too. Many of the houses we're seeing will be available for rent during the summer months. Drinks required here for Euskaltel Euskadi. Peloton has slowed right down. It's being reflected in the time gap too. It's up to 9 minutes 6 seconds now. There's a lot of crowd just ahead here as we start for the Peloton 2 now, the climb of the Col des Abeilles. 7.7 kilometers. The leading breakaway then is at 4 kilometers, so there's the gap for you. 3.7 kilometers is the gap between bunch and breakaway now.
Summit of the climb called Les Abeilles is at 45 kilometers to go to the finish, and once they've gone over there, they've got around about a 25-kilometer descent into the town of Bédoin. That's where the final climb, the Col de Mont Ventoux, begins in earnest.
Saxo Bank doing virtually all the work, and computer suggesting that Aston have been on the front for 29% of it, but if they have, I don't know where that was because I've never seen them on the front.
Well, you know, the computer gets a bit warm sometimes, especially with the temperature down here in Provence, tickling 29 degrees Celsius. There you can see the Astana riders just sitting in the second row there, waiting to see whether or not Team Saxo Bank does falter. And if they do, they will take up the pacemaking at the front end of the pack.
Well, there's the beautiful Lavender. Lumervel should be getting back in the bunch after his puncture. We continue towards Ventoux. He was given a rear wheel by a teammate, but I didn't see who the teammate was. Well, the boys are about 3.5 kilometers in the break from the top of the hill. We'll be back in time to see them go over it.
The relationship you have with your car isn't so different from your other relationships. Some burn hot and fast, but don't last very long. Some burn for a while, but don't throw much heat. And some smolder beautifully for a long time.
The award-winning Cadillac CTS sedan. And coming soon, the all-new CTS Sport Wagon.
Time trial is special. You go on the start line, you are alone, and you have to perform. Specialized bike fitting was here to get something better out of me. Sometimes you ride, but maybe with the wrong position, and this little bit was changed, even when it's only 1 second out of 1 hour race. I want to get the best out of myself, and I want to get the best out of my bike.
Great choice. I don't know what that means, but if you were to lose your job for some reason, the Sears Buyer Protection Program would cover your purchase until you're working again or your appliance is paid off. You know, should you lose your job.
The Sears Buyer Protection Program. One more way we've got you covered when you use your Sears card. Come in now and save 15% on all appliances. Sears, life well spent.
Why do hardwood floors cost less at Lumber Liquidators? At most flooring stores, your floor makes a few stops before you get your order. Lumber Liquidators cuts out the middleman. Come on in. You'll find the quality hasn't been cut, just the prices. Like Bellawood, the premium pre-finished hardwood flooring from $2.99. Supreme bamboo flooring as low as $1.99 a square foot. Hurry in, these deals won't last. Visit lumberliquidators.com or call 1-800-HARDWOOD for...
What gets you out running, walking, or doing what you really love to do? Let's rewind. You have your own motivations for being out there. Enjoy every second. The Boulder Running Company has what you need to make your experience even better. From free video gait analysis to a huge casual shoe selection to apparel and accessories. The Boulder Running Company. Boulder, Denver, Colorado Springs, and online at boulderrunningcompany.com.
Ready to get up close shark style? Enter the Shark Week Bites Back sweepstakes, and you could be next to take the plunge. Win the grand prize, and we'll send you on a 7-day Discovery Adventures shark excursion in the Galapagos Islands. So head over to sharkweekbitesback.com and enter. And catch Shark Week starting August 2nd at 9, only on Discovery.
Brought to you by Pro Chrysler Jeep. User-friendly cars and trucks from Pro Chrysler Jeep, a totally user-friendly dealer.
A lot of us in the IndyCar series, have used cycling as a form of fitness to prepare for the IndyCar racing.
When you start to lose concentration in a race car, you start to make mistakes, and I'm sure that if you start to think about how much your legs burn, it's probably not going to make you go any faster.
It's not the Honda engine, it's your legs and it's your chest, and I guess whoever has more of that is definitely going to be an advantage.
Concentration, focus, strategy, teamwork, that's all we have.
Tour de France is probably one of the greatest sporting events in the world, really.
Yes, these guys are very fit as well, and tomorrow the IndyCar Series on Versus storms into Canada for the Indy Grand Prix of Edmonton. And midway through the season, the young gun Ryan Briscoe and Dario Franchitti are locked together in a very tight points race. To capture the crown, though, they'll have to fend off defending champion Scott Dixon and some of the world's best drivers. That's the Indy Grand Prix of Edmonton, live tomorrow at 5 Eastern, part of Versus Red, White and Blue Summer. As we come back out to the Tour de France, heading for the destiny of Mont Ventoux, Alberto Contador says he's going to help Lance Armstrong on Mont Ventoux, but he's riding pretty close to him right now. 8 3/4 minutes, just 46.7 kilometers left today. Once the bunch are over the top of the third category climb, they're not quite there yet, neither are the leaders. It's 1 kilometer to go, in fact, for the boys at the front. Then we're down to the basement and into Bedouin, and then it's the mountain.
Well, the Col des Abeilles, the Col of the Bees, is 7.7 kilometers long, not really very steep at all. It's more of an hors d'oeuvre of what's to come, because the final climb of the day is 21 kilometers of ascension.
Some interesting names in the leading group, but there are none which will affect the race lead itself, because Tony Martin is best placed 55.39 behind overall. That's why they were able to break away after the third kilometer this morning. Strengthened at 25 kilometers to a group of 16 when 3 more caught up. That's the way it's been. No obvious passengers, nobody dropped from that front group. The pack here now really is a pack as they start to get closer to the mountain. They're at 5 kilometers, so there's the gap. It's just over 4¼ kilometers between the bunch and the break.
Just to give you an idea of how hard it's starting to get, we had that very rapid start, and it's now in the third hour of the race, Phil, just dropped down to 36 kilometers an hour, so it's coming down all of the time. The final hour, however, unfortunately, is probably only going to be 20 kilometers an hour.
Incidentally, the story about Mark Cavendish saying that Hushoff was not a worthy wearer of that green jersey after he consolidated his lead by the disqualification on one of the stages of Mark at the front and declassed to the back of the race. When they both met in the behind the winners podium yesterday, Hushoff waiting for his next green jersey, and of course Cavendish going in for his 5th stage win trophy. He apologized to Thor Hushoff, and I think that was a good gesture.
No, it certainly was, and Cavendish, in fact, was very impressed, and he told Hushoff to his face that he was impressed about the way Hushoff has gone out on the attack through the Alps. He said, that's something that I could never do, and he realizes that Thor Hushoff is a lot more than just a sprinter. He's a real great bike rider.
Absolutely. Well, they put that way. It looks like Tony Martin has gone over the top first, from where I'm sat here at the back. And in fact, it probably wasn't, because I think it was Jos Postuma. Because there are 2 Rabobanks there, and or Manuel Garate. It was Garate, the little Spanish rider, first. Postuma might have been second, Tony Martin third. We'll find out.
You can actually just see a little bit of the smoke in the air here, Phil, because that's due to this forest fire, which is over to the right-hand side of the course. They've been trying to put it out with a couple of the big Canadair aeroplanes that they have in the southern part of France. This area of France is no stranger to big forest fires in the summer months, and in fact there's been some very nasty ones in the last week or 10 days around the outskirts of Marseille.
Yeah, they've been fighting those as well inside the forest, but the wisps, there it is, as the rider goes round. It looks as though it's well off the course, and that's where we're headed, right to the top. You see the tree line stops, and then we're on the barren landscape of the moon as the road runs straight up from the right to the left finish outside the weather station.
Just to put it into perspective, the reason that there are no trees at the top of the Mont Ventoux was it was completely deforested in medieval times to take the wood down to build ships down in the local port of Toulon. After that, the erosion came along and washed away all the soil, and the trees have never come back, and they probably never will now.
This is Astana. Lance Armstrong alongside on his left shoulder is the yellow jersey of Contador. This is Gregory Rast looking after them both for as long as he can. It's a bit too heavy to get with them up the mountain. 41 is the winner of the Tour of Italy. Denny Menchoff on the far side, number 6, Thor Hushoff in the green jersey. He's taking that to Paris. It's mathematically possible to lose to Mark Cavendish. I think in reality it's not possible.
Mathematically, yes, but I think, you know, you can never underestimate the dedication of a man like Thor Hushoff. He wants to take that jersey for the 2nd time. He was the first Norwegian ever to win that title, and looks like he's set course this year to win it for a 2nd year in a row. Carlos Sastre peeking up at the front end of the main fielder. He made no bones about the fact that he wants to try and win this stage, the stage up to the summit of Mont Ventoux. It is such a legendary climb that everybody wants to try and win it. Armstrong has been here on 2 occasions and never managed to conquer it, and I wonder if at 37 years of age, Phil, he's got it in his legs to try and do something special today.
He might have. Remember Alpe d'Huez last year. Well, studying descending styles here. This is Mikel Delage in the breakaway group at the moment. Still clear of the field as they head towards Mont Ventoux. And it's getting closer. Every few minutes we take a break. And I'm afraid we've got to take another break again just now.
This is humiliating. Stand still so we can get an accurate reading. Okay, 18 pounds and a smidge.
A smidge?
You know, there's really no need to weigh packages under 70 pounds. With priority mail flat rate boxes from the Postal Service, if it fits, it ships anywhere in the country for a low flat rate.
Cool. You know, this scale is off a good 7, 8 pounds. Maybe 5.
Priority mail flat rate boxes, only from the Postal Service. A simpler way to ship.
The inherent value of a Range Rover Sport easily handles the ups and downs of sand, mud, and the economy. Range Rover Sport, the luxury that's more than a luxury.
Kelly Saunders Nature Valley. The place that inspires her to go faster and slower. Elk Mountains, Colorado. Where's yours? 100% natural Nature Valley granola bars that taste nature intended.
Here's Ryan getting ready to make his approach to the men's room.
Looks like he needs to go urgently.
True. And there's Casey about to drive, also to the men's room.
He has been going over and over.
They ought to see their doctors.
Could be male urinary symptoms due to BPH and enlarged prostate.
For many guys, prescription Flomax reduces their urinary symptoms due to BPH in 1 week.
And if their doctors do prescribe Flomax, they could get up to $40 off new or refill prescriptions.
So guys already on Flomax can also save. Only your doctor can tell if you have BPH, not a more serious condition like prostate cancer.
Avoid driving or hazardous tasks for 12 hours after your first dose or increase in dose, as a sudden drop in blood pressure may occur, rarely resulting in fainting.
If considering cataract surgery, tell your eye surgeon you've taken Flomax. Common side effects are runny nose, dizziness, and decrease in semen.
Ask your doctor if Flomax is right for you.
And call 877-4FLOMAX for more information and to see if you qualify for up to $40 off new or refill prescriptions.
For many men, Flomax can make a difference in 1 week.
There are moments in life when there are no limits, no boundaries, no walls. That the rules of gravity just don't apply. Because there is no statute of limitations on greatness.
Welcome back. Well, we're still trying to put the fire out here. Well, we're still trying to develop the fire in the peloton because they're chasing down the breakaway. It looks as though the aircraft has got that fire under control now. There's a lot of smoke, but I think it's winning the battle. All of the leaders that matter in the Tour de France are all together here. It's heading down towards off the little Bumblebee Hill, we'll call it, into the bottom to the sprint, and then we climb away from Bedouin up to the top of the Col de Tourmaine. Still a beautiful day. The wind may have reduced a little bit down at the finish. Where we're at, I nearly said the finish line. We're not on the finishing line. We're down in the town of Vaison-la-Romaine. It's still very windy, but I don't think it's quite as windy as it was, but we can't say what it's like on top of the col.
Well, 1 kilometre to go to the top of the Col des Abeilles for the main field, still under the tutelage of Stuart O'Grady, doing as much as he can. O'Grady, I think, Phil, once he gets to the base of Mont Ventoux, will say to his mates, right, I've done the job for you so far, you can take over and hopefully you'll come up with the win. Matty Lloyd at the back there, number 14, sitting alongside Thor Hushovd in the green jersey. Hushovd changed his wheel quite smartly just a few moments ago, and he's one of those riders who will just make sure that he gets to the top of the Mont Ventoux inside of the elimination times.
Well, it's beginning to hurt Stuart O'Grady, and well, it should right now. This man has done a marvellous piece of pacemaking. When he started the pacemaking, the breakaway was over 10 minutes ahead. It's gone out to 9. It's come back now to 8:16 as we speak. and it's his job to do this for as long as possible and protect his team, and then just ride home as best he can. He's going to have a long, lonely ride up there to Mont Ventoux. From right to left is the way we come. Just off our picture to the right is Chaly-Reynard. That's where you start the climb up towards the summit here. Now, Sean Kelly, the great cyclist of old, has said that you've really got to hurt the riders at the start of the climb. Now, these are the fire engines getting through to the fire here, and they're on the way to finish off what the plane is doing. It's a very unusual sight on the roads of the Tour de France to see anything move on them, but everybody will be aware they're coming, and they've got to get out there and get that fire before it becomes quite a bushfire.
Well, as I mentioned to you as well, Phil, another good reason to have race radios, to be able to get that kind of information to the riders that there is something in the race route. That is very rare in the sites of the Tour de France to see something like that happen. The only other time that it happens is if there's an ambulance needs to get somewhere.
Leaders are over, 8:09. The gap as they came over the top of the third category climb. Only one mountain left now, but it is the hardest, of course, as it heads up the road. The peloton look to be moving quite quickly as well. Sébastien Rosler here at the back. We're looking at the peloton here now as they head towards those convoy of fire engines which are heading towards the fire, so they also will have to be made aware of this as they're going to come along the same road on the left-hand side, the same way the fire engines are coming, but they will get plenty of warning. Terrific speed now has been pushed on at the front. This long, thin line. Not a good time to have gone back there for the Garmin rider, which is Tyler Ferrer. He's the bottle collector on these hilly stages because he's the sprinter. He'll be looking to go head-to-head with Cavendish tomorrow and try and win the last stage of this race in Paris. Well, they've been pulled out into a long line now. All of Astana have replaced Saxo Bank. The order has gone out, given by either Armstrong or Contador, and I would suggest Armstrong to ride. Now, speaking of Lance Armstrong, what drives your inspiration? Well, for me, it's Lance Armstrong coming back from cancer to Tour winner. So let's look now what drives your inspiration, presented by the Honda Insight.
If you told me I was going to come back, I'd have said you were crazy. If you said that I was going to come back and ride the Tour, I'd have really thought you were crazy. And if you said I'd wear the maillot jaune in Paris, I'd have said you're absolutely crazy.
This was, as Lance Armstrong had put it, a miracle, and few would disagree.
Lance is a fascinating guy. I think his personal drive and the things he's done in the sport's inspirational to everybody.
It's really about getting the message, the cancer message, out in the world. He has done everything he can in the United States for the fight against cancer, and now he wants to take it globally.
He is not coming back to win Tour, he's coming back for bigger objectives, to save lives. Just really simple as it sounds, to save lives. And you can't really have a much more honorable mission.
Yes, Lance Armstrong, physically strong, but mentally an enormous man. That's what drives your inspiration, presented by the Honda Insight. Well, don't forget, while the Nike Chalkbot follows the road to the Tour de France, you can follow the Nike Chalkbot at home and Twitter or at wearyellow.com. Log on, submit your own messages. The riders are going over the slogans right now in real time. Wearyellow.com is where you go there. It's a very typical Provence village now as we continue on. This will be the town of Ville-sur-Ozon for the group there, as we look up at the same view the riders get of Mont Ventoux today as they go right around its base to climb it from the other side. The peloton here, another change at the front. It looks as though Cancellara has moved up to the front. The average power output on the last climb, that's interesting, 349 watts by the leaders, but the peloton have been pumping, producing an average of 371 watts. This is your power output to bang those pedals round. That's what the body is making. That's the average of the whole peloton, and that's quite high. In amongst the vineyards now of Mont Ventoux. There's all the leaders for you in the breakaway. And they've been together now since the 25th kilometre as a group of 16. creeping closer and closer. They've come through now the town of Ville-sur-Ozon, heading towards Montmoiron, which is the sprint point. And then after that, we'll be in Bédouin and at the foot of the Ventoux.
It's still coming down, and that's now because of the work that's being done on the front end of the main field by Team Astana. They've obviously decided they want to be the team to dictate the pace. It's their pace to dictate. They want to try and set up their man Alberto Contador and Lance Armstrong to try and retain their positions in the overall standings. These guys here, Phil, I think they'll be happy once they get to the climb, because then all of a sudden they can get into cruise control.
Incidentally, the result at the top of the climb, it was Garati who went over in first place. Tony Martin was second, Postuma third. Michael Delage got 1 point for fourth. And Astana now have really sliced into that lead with that sudden charge over the top of the col. They pulled it back inside 8 minutes. So that breakaway will be swept away off the mountain somewhere along the slopes of Mont Ventoux when the infight starts to decide the Tour de France.
Well, this is life at the back end of the main field. A lot of these riders, Phil, are just thinking about getting through the stage.
32 kilometers or 20 miles left to race. 7:51 is the gap. Astana have decided now to drive at the front, and the gap is coming down quite rapidly. So as the riders continue to freewheel down this very fast stretch of road here, Astana now have a plan, and they've started to put it into effect. Contador and Armstrong are about to go into battle. There she lies.
Adaptive friction extinguishers and hypertronic wear resistors? Seriously?
I use one that offers an engine guarantee.
Yeah.
Only Valvoline guarantees your engine up to 300,000 miles. Get Valvoline. Get guaranteed.
There's something big happening at Pizza Hut.
Whoa, nice. That's a lot of food.
Now get big meals like our stuffed pizza rolls, Pizza Mia, the Pizzone, and our personal Panormus pizza starting at just $5. The Big Eat Tiny Price menu, only at Pizza Hut.
The latest Turtle Wax breakthrough in car polish is Clear. Crystal Clear Turtle Wax Ice, a clarified synthetic carnauba that performs like no other polish or wax. Ice leaves no white residue on trim or in seams.
I had no residue whatsoever. It was perfect.
Clear and deep, really brings out the shine.
Ice is so advanced, you can use it in the hot sun with outstanding results. Now, your choice is clear. Crystal Clear Ice from Turtle Wax, world leader through innovation.
It's the symbol of superiority for which they all fight. But every tournament only has one champion. 2009 will take a select few to legendary heights and bring others to their knees. But they continue the fight with some fresh faces entering the fray. Because it's what they know. It's what they do best. Watch the Champions Tour all season long on Golf Channel.
look at our Travellers American overall positions in the Tour de France. Armstrong is in 3rd place, hoping to stay there, if not improving it to 2nd today. Van der Velde is in 8th place at 10 minutes. George Hincapie 20th. He moved up 5 places yesterday. Dave Zabriskie, Danny Pate, Tyler Farrer, poor old Levi Leipheimer didn't make it this time, but he'll be back. Well, our Cisco insider is now Lance Armstrong, talking at the start this morning of Frankie.
Lance, you have a teammate just behind you. You have 2 other guys trying like mad to be able to knock you off a 3rd place position. How can you mark all those guys, and how do you plan on handling that today?
Well, I think it's you know, there are a few guys, but it's, you know, you gotta. One of them will be doing a lot of attacking in Frank Schlick, and one of them will be like me, a little bit trying to follow the attacks or limit the damage, and that's Bradley Wiggins. The interesting thing today, and the perhaps confusing thing, will be the wind. I mean, apparently it's just howling up on top of the Ventoux. So the first part, steep in the trees, big selection. But the wind at the top will probably neutralize things a lot once we get to that point. But before that, it'll be mayhem.
Alberto's been a little bit of a loose cannon with some of his attacks. Obviously, his responsibility to keep the yellow jersey, but does he have a responsibility to be able to help keep you in 3rd?
I don't know.
I mean, in the morning meeting, are you gonna? Well, in the morning meeting, is he gonna be able to help you along with being able to keep the yellow? Or there was no conversation about it, and you're on your own?
No, I think I'll avoid that one. Bite my tongue on that one. He looks like he's gonna win. I need to do my job, and he can ride his race. I'll ride mine, and everybody can see what's going on. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out. So. We're just trying to keep a good attitude in the team, keep the core of the group together, and we'll be good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lance.
Yeah.
Yes, well, you can see these 2 are riding for the team, but quite clearly they're not exactly the best of friends, Contador and Armstrong, I don't think. And they'll be going their separate ways this year, I'm sure. Just looking down here at the vineyards here of Mont Ventoux. Paul, Armstrong and Contador, friends or not, do you think Contador will help him today?
Oh, it's a very difficult. I think I'd love to say what Lance Armstrong says in a situation like that. I don't think I can make a comment.
We're going to find out anyway, aren't we? And it's not too far away.
The road is the only thing that will tell us. I'll tell you one thing, though. The team Astana have been very clever, again, tactically. As soon as they saw those crosswinds coming, they went to the front end of the main field. They didn't try and catch out Alberto Contador, but they were all working very well together. The whole of the team have actually split the main field.
And big George Hincapie is in there, centre left in that yellow helmet as well. Liquigas have got their man up here, Vincenzo Nibali. Just checking out that Wiggins is safely here, and he is right up in the split. This race has started before Mont Ventoux here. Well, just looking down there now, the speed of Astana. They've read the wind swung from tail to cross, and if our camera pulls back, you will see they've split the peloton here with some fine aggressive riding. Look at the size of the field now. This has happened in 1 kilometre.
Well, Johan Brunel almost predicted this. He said that the most difficult part of the climb may well be the lead up to the climb because of the crosswinds that are blowing in this part of the world, and we could see, I could smell this happening with Team Astana. All of a sudden they went to the front end of the field. They assumed control, and as soon as the road was in the right direction, as soon as the wind direction was in the right direction, they put the hammer down, and bang, the split happened immediately.
Well, providing there's none of the top 7 riders missed that split, the peloton here might just drop off the back right now. 6:51 is the gap as they start the real race for Ventoux. So as we look at the riders here continuing through in a long straight line, that is where we're going. A little bit of a surprise that the racing started a little bit early today, and this is going to be really now a showdown on the slopes of Ventoux. We'll see in a moment.
When your engine's running clean, you feel it. And Pennzoil Platinum Motor Oil cleans out up to 46% of sludge in your first oil change and continues to clean in your next change. Feel our ultimate clean, not just oil, Pennzoil.
Choosing a car is like trying on a dress. As soon as you slip into it, you know it's the one. But you still turn around to see the back, because let's face it, you want them to hate to see you go, but love to watch you leave.
Introducing the all-new Cadillac CTS Sport Wagon.
Earn up to 10,000 Hilton Honors bonus points. Real value from your friends at Hampton.
Go climb a tree or discover things you've only read about. Maybe it's time to get the kids off the couch and on the water. Get the gear to get it done at Bass Pro Shops, like worldwide Sportsman Angler shirts for just $14.94. The Body Glove Method Life Vest for only $19.94. And take 33% off all remaining towables. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
Usain Bolt is the fastest man on Earth. And Tyson Gay wants his title back.
Stop your auto repair bills now. If you own a car with less than 250,000 miles, you can get an extended warranty that will finally stop your repair bills. Just call now or go to stoprepairbills.com. When you own a car, SUV, or truck, sooner or later it will need repair. And that can cost you thousands of dollars right out of your pocket. Just one transmission job could cost over $3 grand. A new engine could cost over $4 grand. But you won't have to pay a cent. Call now or visit stoprepairbills.com and we'll cover 100% of the costs. This isn't a dealer's warranty. It's much better and costs less. Because you only pay for the coverage you need. You even choose the repair shop. And we pay them directly so you don't wait to be reimbursed. The sooner you call, the sooner you're covered.
Call 1-800-568-0063. A free 5-minute call can save you thousands in auto repair. Call 1-800-568-0063 and stop paying repair bills now.
7 races left, and they're all on Versus. The fastest drivers on the planet are on the final laps to the championship when IndyCar returns to Versus. Sunday at 5.
Welcome back, and we're looking at Mont Ventoux here now, and that is where we're headed to. Race summary so far today. 13 men get away early on, and Delage, Perez and Gutierrez join them a few kilometers down the road. 16 men up front. The time gap has peaked at 10:35 at 89 kilometers left, and now 24 kilometers to go. They're holding a lead of 6:08 on a peloton which has been split in the crosswinds. So the situation right now, as the riders are heading towards Mont Ventoux, I think that'll be a little bit of a surprise, Paul, the effort that the Astana put in there all of a sudden.
Well, they watched, and you know, that's the amazing thing about Johan Brunel. He's always looking for a little edge somewhere along the race route, and as soon as he saw that wind changing direction, as soon as he saw the road changing direction, bang, he said to the guys, put the hammer down, and they've caused chaos here.
Well, they may be coming down a little bit slower just now. Mikel Astolosa made it, number 61 there, which means he will conserve for the moment his top 10 position overall. Just spanning the field here. As far as we know, none of the big men have missed it, so they might just ease off a little bit.
I noticed Mark Cavendish has got himself into this group. I don't think he'd be winning the sprint at the end of the day, but it is a sign, Phil, that he was being attentive. There you can see they're slowly clawing their way back, but again, it's one of those little lessons, isn't it? You have to pay attention on every kilometre of this 4,000-kilometre race, because if you don't pay attention one day or another, you'll lose time for no reason at all.
Well, Cancellara just laying across his bike on that front in that red Champion of Switzerland jersey. He's got the whole of Saxo Bank on the front now, with Astana following.
Well, there you go. That's Team Saxo Bank now. They saw the start of the job of work there being done by Team Astana, and they like this situation, and that's why Fabio Cancellara, the big man from Switzerland, has gone to the front to put the hammer down. The second part of the main field is not much more than 10 or 12 seconds in arrears, but they're going to have to try very hard to try and catch up with the yellow jersey group.
Well, we're getting very close now to Bedouin, which we hit at 23 kilometers from the finish. And I didn't see the town, but the leaders must just be on the edge of Bedouin now. This is the face of pain here coming from Fabian Cancellara. His job ends at the bottom of the climb. Danny Pate and the boys, David Miller, bringing up Garmin slipstream as well.
You have to say that there are three very dominant teams in the Tour de France this year, Phil. Team Saxo Bank doing the work there just now. Team Astana have been a solid block, but Team Garmin, I think, have matured as a team in this year's Tour de France, because they've been solid at every tactical place when they needed to be. That is the tête de la course, the head of the bike race. That's what they're looking for now. The 16 men are entering the small town of Bedouin. They, once they leave this town, start the climb proper.
So they're going to hit the bottom of the of Mont Ventoux with a lead of about 5 minutes as they come into Bedouin. That won't be enough to survive to the summit, of course. So as we look here, there's the split. The Peloton trying desperately to get back on terms here before they go through Bedouin. But it looks as though that Peloton is going to make the lower slopes of Mont Ventoux just ahead of the field. There she blows. That's going to send shudders down anybody's spine. When we come back, we will be commercial free thanks to Chrysler to the top of the climb.
To send an expert.
A walking, talking, know-it-all.
Expert. A guru. How about Wu? Wu will do.
Where to?
First stop, Peru.
Then send Wu to Kathmandu.
What's next?
Timbuktu.
And area code 212. So Timbuktu, Kathmandu, Peru in 212?
All by 2:30.
Not a problem.
Need an expert? Push a button. That's the human network effect. Learn more at cisco.com/newways.
The right coverage isn't just about the car.
It's about who's in the passenger seat.
Coverage that's personal for people with freckles and mustard stains in hopes of catching a game ball.
Coverage that's smart when I buy it and even smarter when I need it. Join the thousands of us getting better auto coverage at a better price under the Travelers umbrella.
Get better coverage with Travelers and save an average of $383. To find an agent near you or to get a quote, visit travelers.com or call 1-800-MY-COVERAGE.
Every race is a battle, measured in fractions of a second, fought with a philosophy we call system integration, an approach to engineering where every motion of every rider, of every Super 6, is channeled into forward motion to maximize performance. Let the battle begin.
During times like these, it seems like the world will never be the same. But there is a light beginning to shine again. The spark began where it always begins. At a restaurant downtown, in a shop on Main Street, a factory around the corner. Entrepreneurs like these are the most powerful force in the economy. They drive change, and they'll relentlessly push their businesses to innovate and connect. As we look to the future, they'll be there ahead of us, lights on, showing us the way forward. This is just the beginning of the reinvention of business. And while we're sure we don't know all the answers, we do know one thing for certain. We want to help. Come see what the beginning looks like.
The following half-hour commercial-free coverage of Stage 20 is brought to you by Chrysler.
Well, this is Mont Ventoux, and it's now or never.
The Mont Ventoux will make or break your Tour de France.
Just look at the pain on the riders' faces. Well, all that's left now is for the riders to face up to the giant of Provence, Mont Ventoux.
Mont Ventoux is an epic in the Tour de France history. An extremely difficult climb. It's very long. I can imagine it's going to be a very difficult day.
This climb is a brutal, brutal beast of a climb.
Well, Mont Ventoux is huge. It's massive. And to be on the penultimate day of the Tour is unheard of, and it's going to make the entire Tour.
It all comes down to the battle on Mont Ventoux.
It'll take some mental strength to put out a good performance and then some physical strength to back that up.
This course will now look straight up into the sky.
At the top, there's absolutely no trees whatsoever. So you can see the Peloton winding up, and you can see the caravan start to come up, and it truly looks like the moon.
Well, now they've turned around the Chalet Reynard. They really have come onto the moonscape here now. This is without doubt the hardest part of Mont Ventoux.
It's really dry, and sometimes it can be really windy. It's going to be hot.
And as they climb up the steep side of Mont Ventoux, it's not just the slope, but it's also the crosswinds they're going to encounter now.
Steep and never lets up.
There's a lot of history to it, and people get all fired up about it. And, you know, the name Ventoux, freak out.
I think it's going to create all kinds of drama.
Well, Armstrong, I think, really does like this climb, but it's hurt him.
And personally speaking, I have a lot of regrets over the Ventoux. I wanted that thing.
Well, just one bend to go now, and then Armstrong will see the finishing line of the climb. It's been a tough day.
I left unfinished business there.
This is the last great obstacle of the Tour de France 2009.
So now we all know about Mont Ventoux, and there it is, live pictures now as the riders are starting the climb up to the top of this revered mountain. Let's just remind ourselves where we are on the course. The riders have just arrived in Bedouin. The breakaway is still ahead, and now we're going to climb from the basement up to 6,273 feet. It's not just the climb, it's the fact that when you're on the top, you are totally exposed to the elements. You're not going round like a helter-skelter. You're being beaten from one side or the other by the winds. And our coverage now being brought to you by Chrysler, which will leave us commercial free all the way to the top of the Mont Ventoux, which is going to be about 1 hour of coverage. So let's settle in now and enjoy the last big battle of the Tour de France this year. 3 minutes 57 is the last time check that's coming in off Radio Tour. 18.6 kilometers to go. The peloton has dropped away from that Astana Saxo Bank-led attack, and now it is Garmin Slipstream. And you're right, Paul, this team has matured in this Tour de France.
This is a massive battle, and I don't think anybody would have predicted the battle to start as far out from the climb as it has done. Juan Manuel Garate at the front of the race, now accelerating, splitting this 16-man lead group. Followed there immediately by Tony Martin, coming across there as well, Christophe Riblon. But behind them, you can see that the main field really are starting to whip up the pacemaking, led by Garmin Slipstream.
Well, watch out for massive crowds on the slopes today as we head up towards the summit. Juan Manuel Garate is a very good climber. Tony Martin has shown us he has been, but we thought he got a bit tired in the Alps, but he's taking his chance. Quickly joined Juan Manuel in the lead. They are from the front group, looking down on the peloton. This is where the race for the final yellow is, and indeed for second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh places, it's all in the battle here. The spread is between second and seventh is just over 2 minutes.
Yes, amazing. Second and sixth is 1 minute and 28 seconds. But Garmin Slipstream have come out today. They weren't going to let anybody else put them under pressure. They've decided to dictate the pacemaking. And isn't David Miller a completely different rider this year, Phil, now that he's got a goal? His goal is to protect Bradley Wiggins and try and get him onto the podium.
Well, it's going to be a big day, a big test for Bradley as well. As we watch here now, Armstrong reckons the attack should start straight away. Well, there is Armstrong still taking full protection from his team. Contador looking extremely composed. He's riding behind Armstrong just now. Cloden behind those two. They won't be in that pack for much longer, I don't feel.
Well, this is the 3 leaders now. They've left that group of 16 riders behind Christophe Riblon. Another acceleration coming from Juan Manuel Garate. He's obviously got his legs on fire this afternoon. Tony Martin responding to that, but I'm not sure they're going to stay with the Spanish climber.
Well, he really wants to break it up and settle into his own rhythm here. These are just the very lower slopes of the climb as well. But before the wind changes to a blockhead, he wants to try and open a little gap. Little reaction from Tony Martin. And getting himself back on terms with Riblon, perhaps.
Well, Martin just riding across the gap slowly. They've got a little crosswind section of the course here, but Martin is using a massive gear to try and drag himself back up to the wheel of the Spaniard, and I think he's done it.
Well, the wind a little bit helpful just there, judging by the flags, so they've turned around a little bit. And Garate having to sort of check himself here and decide he may have to go again. Well done, Tony Martin and Christophe Riblon, as they rejoin him here. Now the 3 of them together, they won't be friends now because they know Garate is going to keep on attacking, but this is where the action will come from as David Miller continues to set the pace, and Bradley Wiggins right behind him with Christian van der Velde there.
Well, there's a huge crowd. They're estimating quite possibly 500,000 people are going to watch the Tour de France over the next 20 kilometers, and that's physically here at the side of the road. The acceleration, the work is being done by Team Garmin Slipstream. You can see Bradley Wiggins just sitting there in second position behind his teammate. The leader of the King of the Mountains classification is also in this group, Franco Pellizotti, but no serious moves yet.
No high-tempo riding here. David Miller is doing his very best to go quick enough for as long as he can to stop anybody moving away from this field. Contador there, just wiping the sweat off his eyes as we go back up to the rear of the field here. If you can go back up to the rear. We're at the rear anyway. And this is the Liquigas rider here, which is Alessandro Benotti, about to lose contact.
Well, Miller is doing a phenomenal job here. He's keeping the pace nice and high, and I think the reason he and Christian van der Velde are doing this is because they want to try and nullify the violent accelerations of the Schleck brothers, which will come later on. And this is a good tactic by Garmin Slipstream to try and take the sting out of the attack of the climbers, Frank and Andy Schleck.
Well, Luis Leon Sanchez made the split. That's the black jerseyed rider to the right. He's also saying next time he comes back to the Tour, he wants a high finish and not just a stage win, which he's had this year, as he did last year. Well, this group is going to get smaller by the minute as the pressure goes on. It's not very big to start with. That's where we're going, as if the riders need reminding. We will twist our way up from this side of the mountain to Chalet Reynard. Then we make a sharp left into the moonscape, which will take us right to the summit. Garate, Martin and Riblon are the 3 riders here who still are together right at the head of the field.
Well, at 15 kilometers to go, the first part of this course, Phil, is around about 5 and 6%, but this part of the climb now kicks up to in excess of 9% gradient. You can see the difference in the grade as Vanotti says goodbye to the rest of that group. His job done making sure that his team leader Franco Pellizotti and Vincenzo Nibali were in the group of the yellow jersey. He now just has to survive. Round the corner in a couple of minutes, this group here of the heads of state will hit the steep part of the course, and that may be the spot where we see Andy and Frank Schleck test the waters for the first time.
Just look at the faces of the domestics here, the riders who have to set the pace for their respective team leaders, and Miller is doing a very, very good job for Wiggins just now. Contador has also sought out the back wheel there of Wiggins. There he is, Contador. And Armstrong alongside Contador. Perhaps Contador is going to help Lance Armstrong today and try and get him on the podium. And there's an outside chance that Astana could still do 1, 2, 3. And if they don't, well, I guess Contador's to blame for that as well.
Well, yes, let's not forget Andreas Kloden is in 5th position, and he could very easily move up, but they would have to crack Andy Schleck, and he's going to be a tough nut to crack because the way he rode on the slopes of the Col de la Colombière, I don't think he's showing signs of being a weakening rider. That is an incredible sea of people.
This, Paul, is Saturday in Provence in the month of July. We've been here many times before. I've never seen a crowd like this.
It's phenomenal. It really is. And bear in mind, Phil, that a lot of these people have actually had to walk up this mountain. The mountain was closed more than 24 hours ago to make sure that there weren't too many camping cars up towards the summit.
At 15 kilometers to go, these are the three leaders. The time gap at the moment is 3 minutes and 22 seconds. They are 3 from an original group of 16, but the speed of the split behind now will be picking up shortly riders from that group of 16, because they'll be shutting down. The effort over for the day. Nobody in this lead group racing for a yellow jersey, but they're racing for stage glory. And the person that walks away saying, I won on Mont Ventoux, will be remembered.
There's not too many people can say that. It very rarely comes and finishes at the summit of the Col de Mont Ventoux at the Tour de France, but on this occasion we are looking at an epic battle, because it's exactly what the race organisers wanted, Phil. They wanted the final overall classification of the Tour de France to be decided on the penultimate day, to keep the suspense right in there to the very end.
Just look at the faces now of these boys as they try to drag Frank and Andy Schleck into firing positions. Armstrong is right there with Contador. Wiggins is right there with Christian van der Velde. There's no chinks in the armour yet. These boys are all in the right position at the moment. The speed they're riding Mont Ventoux, it's unbelievable. As they hit these pedals in front of the biggest crowd we've ever seen on the slopes of Mont Ventoux, and I've got a feeling this crowd will go right to the top. People at the top said they reckon 1 million people are on this, and I thought they must be mad. They might be right.
They seriously could be extremely right. George Hincapie cannot take this infernal pace, so he's going to use the better part of valour there, Phil, and ride at his own comfortable tempo. Vladimir Karpitz has found the good train this afternoon, 161 sitting at the back end of the main field. This is a very small select group. Mikel Astrolosa on the left-hand side, orange jersey, number 61. He was 10th overall at the start of the day. I think he's looking at 9th. Actually, there's a Française de Jeu over on the other side, and Christophe Lemervel may well have made the good train.
Well, I think he's the only one that would still be here, unless it's Sandy Cassar, but we'll do our best to identify them as they come at us. But right now it's Saxo Bank versus the rest, as they try to keep the tempo high and maybe launch Andy and Frank Schleck to put Luxembourg second and third overall in the Tour de France. I don't think it's possible to take the final yellow jersey away from Contador, not with a 4-minute margin and about 14 kilometers left to ride here. Still Garate, Martin and Riblon up ahead, by the way. There are cameras waiting for the move to come from this peloton. Number 17 is the revelation from Belgium, Jurgen van den Broek, on Cadel Evans's Silence Lotto team. I don't think Cadel has made this split for sure.
Chris Anker Sorensen on the front, followed by Nicky Sorensen, followed by Sergio Paulinho. These are the workers. Just looking over there, 106 is the rider from Française de Jeu. So Christophe Lemervel, 9th overall at the start of the day, Phil, has still survived, and he's still in this group. A rider from Garmin Slipstream has disappeared from the group, though, and it is David Miller. But I'm not surprised after the job of work he did over the opening kilometres.
A job done, and that's it. You ride to your limit, you hold it there, and then when you can't do it anymore, you just drop away. This is Anker Sorensen just on the front now. It's his turn to do a Miller, if you like, for his team, Saxo Bank. It's getting a bit difficult to pick the riders out from the crowd. Thank heavens the crowd haven't got numbers on as we head up to 10 kilometres to go with the front runners. They're absolutely flying up Mont Ventoux at the moment. I know they've got a little bit of helpful wind, but we'll swing around by Chalet Reynard for sure.
Well, there's a 3-man leading group, and this is it. Juan Manuel Garate, their former champion of Spain in the road race. Christophe Riblon in the white jersey of AG2R, and riding on the front, the man we expected could possibly have got himself into the top 10 was Tony Martin. But this is where the action is. This is where the Tour de France will be decided from this group, because this is the group of top contenders. And I'll tell you one thing, Phil, I didn't see any pain on the face of Lance Armstrong.
He's still holding his rhythm, concentrating. So too is Contador. I've only noticed actually Andy Schleck, but they're both there. Wiggins also is looking quite cool. They're all waiting for what they know will be the final showdown. There's not huge time gaps between them all. Only the leader and the rest of the big time gap exists. So Contador is happy the way this is going. He's got everybody under his wings, and at 10 kilometers to go, as it will be shortly, can't get 4 minutes then. But the riders now, as they climb this hill, is such an incredible speed. This is Sebastian Minard, who is about to lose contact. There is the mountain slope. We're off to the right when we make our final approach, but we're not above the tree line yet. And when we are, look how long that road is.
And once they climb out of the tree line, don't forget that's when they'll start to get buffeted by these winds, which are between 20 and 30 kilometers an hour at this point. But when we get a little bit further up the climb, we're looking at maybe 50 to 60 kilometer an hour winds.
3 minutes 16 from these riders here right down. There's another view as we come up from the bottom of our picture here, not the left-hand side, as the riders climb up to the summit, up to the weather station. Looks a bit empty because all the installations that bring the Tour de France to the world were sitting 35 kilometers away and commentating, and it's a very bizarre feeling looking out the window and seeing moving traffic rather than closed roads and people waving flags. But anyway, Minard looks as though he's losing contact here. I'm not surprised. They're flying on the slopes of Mont Ventoux today. How do they ride this speed up a mountain like this?
Well, Nicky Sorensen, job done. He is now swinging away from the front end of the main field. His job done for the team. He's made it as hard as possible, trying to set up a possible attack by Andy Schleck and brother Frank. Leaving now just Chris Anker Sorensen, followed though there by Sergio Paulinho, very solid rider from Team Astana, Olympic silver medalist in Athens behind Paolo Bettini.
Look at that, Paul. 1, 2, 3 in the Tour de France, 1, 2, 3 in our pictures here. Contador is first, the left rider in white is second, Armstrong sits third. Will that be the order in Paris, I wonder?
Andreas Kloden sitting behind Alberto Contador, the German rider who lost the back end of the train on the road up to the Col de la Colombière, and the possibility of this team finishing first, second and third. But that all still could happen this afternoon. But the way Saxo Bank are riding, I don't think their men, Frank and Andy Schleck, are in bad form this afternoon. They're just waiting and biding their time to launch a vicious attack.
Well, that's Albert Timmer coming back. He was in the breakaway as he takes a good look at the faces of the riders he's never seen from the front on a mountain before, to see just how hard they are climbing this mountain now. Number 106 is Christophe Lemervel. He's holding on to his 9th place, but he's only 1 second to the good of the rider in front of him. Sorensen, number 37, he's done his work and has cracked now, to be expected. Very soon, they'll just be the leaders of the Tour de France together.
Well, Saxo Bank have assassinated their own team this afternoon in an attempt to try and assassinate the rest of the leaders of the Tour de France. Dropping back, this man was in the breakaway earlier on in the day, Cyril Lemoine. He's slowing up and going backwards.
Flag of St. George there, and Bradley Wiggins is doing the ride of his life in the Tour de France this year. We've never had a rider challenge for a podium like this for years and years. The last man was Robert Miller, who finished 4th. Before that, we must look back to Tommy Simpson, who finished 6th. Well, as they drop in now, one after another, this is another one going. This is Vladimir Karpitz, the leader of Katusha. He's also uncoupled at the back. These are the 3 leaders now, with their jerseys flying to the wind as they climb Mont Ventoux. The next banner they will see will be 5 kilometers from the summit. It's still a little way yet, and it looks as though Tony Martin has refound his legs, which took him through the Pyrenees with such success.
Well, he's just setting the tempo. It's his own pace. Here's
a attack. Till started.
Frank Schleck there, Phil, covered immediately by Lance Armstrong.
That's all Armstrong has to do, is follow Frank Schleck, because if he can hold Schleck, then he'll be somewhere near the result at the end of the day, and he will hold his 3rd position.
Well, that was the first move by Frank Schleck. He's not created the distance that he wanted to, and immediately Armstrong was there. Armstrong this afternoon, Phil, will ride his own race. He said so much this morning. He will stay on the wheel of Frank Schleck and make sure that he keeps there in 3rd.
Another acceleration by Schleck. He's almost playing with Lance Armstrong. Armstrong just says, keep doing that, and I'll keep following. We're still in the trees here as we climb towards Chaly-Reynard, and then the riders will turn to their left. Contador has just made sure everything is in order. He's got Andy Schleck just behind. Lemervel is in the spot of bother here as Pelazzotti pedals back up to the group. So Lemervel could be losing his 9th place in favour of Astolosa.
Look at the face of Armstrong there. He's just telling Frank, you ain't going nowhere this afternoon, mate, because I'm going to stick all over your back wheel. But his teammate and brother is coming forward. Now, if Andy Schleck attacks, that's going to be a different story.
Will there be a savage acceleration from the man in white? He's checking over his shoulder. Contador's got him under his wing. It's his job to try and follow Andy. These 2 great youngsters from Luxembourg, Andy and Frank, are hitting them one-on-one. And these boys knew it had to be this way, because they don't just want to be on the podium in France, in Paris. They want to be number 1.
Sliding backwards now, Sergio Paulinho. He's one of the team helpers on Team Astana. Christian van der Velde, he's done his job.
Astrolosa too.
Astrolosa slipping back. Franco Pelazzotti slipping back. There's probably only going to be the top 6 riders in the overall classification field left at the front. I did notice that Vincenzo Nibali is in there as well for Team Liquigas in the green.
Yes, there's Nibali. So we're left with the stars of this year's Tour de France, the last mountain of the Tour de France. They go shoulder to shoulder. They will throw every punch they've got left in the Tour now, and the result will be the final shuffling of the classification. Bradley Wiggins is hooked up at the back of this group as the white jersey, second in the Tour de France, goes again. Contador, he just sits there and plays the tango. He's not in any difficulty whatsoever.
This is the toughest part of the climb. Well, there's a lot more tough stuff to come a little bit further up, but they are looking out of the acceleration. Schleck and Contador have got the gap that they want, first and second overall, but this is not really what Andy Schleck is looking for. He's looking to try and gap his brother. Now watch for a move, and it's
Lance
Armstrong coming.
Lance Armstrong has said, now that's interesting. I thought he would wait for Frank to make the move. It's almost as if Andy is inviting his brother to join him, but he's got a shock now because he's inviting Lance Armstrong, who is also being shadowed by Frank. Nibali has joined in as well. Now Wiggins is still there too.
And notice that Alberto Contador is doing nothing at all to set the pacemaking with Andy Schleck. He's sitting and biding his time. He has absolutely no reason at all, Phil, to attack.
Samuel Dumoulin has been caught and dropped from the front group as well. This is the race for the final jersey in the Tour de France now. White versus yellow. Nibali sits 7th overall as he holds it there. The riders slide away. This is William Bonnet. He was part of the lead group as well. He's gone. The King of the Mountains looks as though he's gone, as well as all of the riders crack here. This is Andreas Kloden. Is he in trouble? If he is,
he could be losing his place overall. In front of him is Roman Kreuziger. You know, you mustn't push yourself into the red zone on a climb like this. You've got to conserve, because we've got still 11 kilometers to get to the summit of this climb, and Armstrong is still in contact, but so too is Bradley Wiggins.
Well, this could be good news for Bradley Wiggins if Andreas Kloden has cracked, because he needs to stay clear to consolidate his 4th place overall. To have a go at Armstrong, he will have to wait a little bit longer. But at the moment, Bradley Wiggins is having a very good ascent here. Well, as we look here, the sun now directly over the top of the riders. I hope you're enjoying this 1-hour commercial free brought to you by Chrysler as we head towards the end of the last big mountain, Mont Ventoux. And another attack, this time one of the best climbers in the world, if not the second best climber, because the first best climber's right behind him. Contador has to do nothing except follow today to win the Tour de France. He's trying to hold the attack of Andy Schleck, I think in favour of Armstrong.
No, I think he's trying to pay back Armstrong for the help and assistance. There's the move now coming from Frank Schleck behind, but all over Frank Schleck's back wheel is Lance Armstrong. Armstrong is not going to let that podium position slip away from him.
Frank Schleck to the left. He doesn't look so good to me, actually, looking at Frank's face. Frank just keeps staring them out. If he's trying to psych them out, he looks straight at the face there of Bradley Wiggins, who doesn't look to be in trouble. He had a rough ride on the Col de Colombier. They gave him the old 1-2, and he faded. But I think he's got his head back in gear now, and he's looking good.
Well, coming back from the leading group, this is Michael Delage. All of those riders in that 16-man lead group, Phil, slowly but surely being overtaken by these men here. Now, this is a bit further down. There's Jürgen van den Broek. There's Roman Kreuziger. They are trying to ride themselves back into this race. The cars, which were behind the breakaway, being stopped at the side of the road. Armstrong is riding a superbly good defensive ride here, but I don't think, as you said, Phil, Frank Schleck, I don't think has got it in his legs this afternoon. His brother, though, certainly does have.
He's trying to coax the best out of his brother Frank here, Andy. But what has happened is the pace has slowed again. They might let Andreas Kloden back into this. He was the other rider in those 3 chases. He might well get himself back into this group, and that'll be another card for Astana to play. This is Christophe Lemavel, the rider on his shoulder, 1 second behind him in the overall. They're riding up the mountain together. There is the face of Lance Armstrong. That doesn't look like a tired Armstrong to me at all.
It certainly doesn't. He looks pretty much in control of all of these attacks. I think there are only 2 riders in this group, Phil, that Lance Armstrong Armstrong cannot go with. One is Andy Schleck and one's his own teammate, Alberto Contador. But I think the two leaders in first and second place overall are doing their best to try and get their own teammates onto the podium.
Well, Andy Schleck has dropped to the back of this group, and he looks a bit twitchy to me. There he is in that white jersey, and I think he's gone back there to have a word with Bro Frank, who's now on the front here, so wait for some acceleration from the back. Frank is going to have another go, and Armstrong dances. So Armstrong, no trouble to answer the acceleration. It might have caught Andy off guard there a little bit, but as we see the continuing riders drop away from the action, that was Perez from the original breakaway. There can't be many left ahead now. Frank Schleck, tempo riding. Armstrong marking Frank Schleck as all he has to do to hold his third place overall. In case you've forgotten, these are the leaders on the road of the Tour de France today, and they're down to 2.
Well, I tell you one thing, Phil, of the top 7 riders in the overall classification, only one man is missing, and that's Andreas Kloden. And they're still throwing everything at each other. Armstrong there with a bottle, passes it to a spectator at the side of the road. That's a very valuable souvenir. As you can see, this is Kloden slowly clawing his way possibly back into this race.
So Kloden there now. He's recovering from that rapid acceleration. He might well be, if he's allowed to ride his own tempo, he could well join these, because this has become a tactical battle to decide the Tour de France. Contador's got the money in the bank. He's not worried. He'll win the Tour if he goes up. But at the moment, Contador, Schleck, Armstrong, Wiggins, and both Schlecks are in this pack. The only man they've caught out is Kloden, and he's only just behind. If this pace drops again, he's going to come back.
The two brothers, Schleck on the left-hand side, are chatting away. What are we going to do? How are we going to get rid of Lance Armstrong? Frank saying, well, I've tried everything I've got so far, but maybe we need to wait till we get slightly closer to the summit of this climb.
Well, they've come up behind Gutierrez there, who looked to be enjoying himself. He'll be shortly passed by the boys, as these are the two leaders here. Tony Martin leading Garate and looking good just now. They're hanging on to 2¼ minutes.
Jürgen van den Broek there, the serious revelation for Team Silence Lotto. He's had a very good ride through the Alps, and he's riding fairly defensively on the slopes of the Mont Ventoux here this afternoon. 10 kilometers to go on a flat stage. That would be around about 12 minutes of racing. Today, it's going to be a lot more than that, probably closer to half an hour.
10 kilometers to go now for the two leaders, and Garate on the right and Tony Martin on the left. 2¼ minutes the gap as the battle to win the Tour de France is enacted just behind them down the road. Andy Schleck is keeping the pace high again. Contador is just following. Frank Schleck is in 3rd place. Armstrong is in 4th. Nibali 5th. Wiggins 6th. These are the boys of this year's Tour de France, and Kloden just trying to get on board.
But here he is, and he's getting into his own rhythm. He's trying to keep his place in the top 5 in the overall classification, caught out by the accelerations of the Schleck brothers. Jürgen van den Broek as well, I think, is a rider we could talk about maybe next year for getting himself into the top 10 for Belgium. He could end up being the leader of Team Silence Lotto.
Well, let's hope he can tow Kloden back into the action here, but I think they're beginning to lose ground because the pace has been picked up by this brilliant climber from Luxembourg. Charlie Gore was never quite the shape of Andy Schleck, but he was the original angel of the mountains, Charlie, and he will be proud of these two boys now, that's for sure.
Well, there you can have a quick look there at the overall look, Phil, because we're looking at Alberto Contador, the leader, 4:41 ahead, 4:11 ahead of Andy Schleck, who's in the white jersey. Armstrong in 3rd place at the start of the day, 5:21 behind. Bradley Wiggins, 5:36 behind. Andreas Kloden is the only guy missing currently from the top 5, but he's only about 10 seconds behind this group of elite men.
But if Bradley Wiggins wanted to get on the podium in Paris tomorrow, which was unthinkable when we were in Monaco 3 weeks ago, he's got to sprint ahead of Lance Armstrong by 16 seconds at the summit. It's as simple as that right now. He's riding with the group, but is he under pressure? There he is, number 58. Or is he waiting for his moment to try and steal 1/4 minute and get 3rd place in Paris?
Well, Roman Kreuziger, Phil, has recovered there. He was left behind a few moments ago, but now Team Liquigas have got 2 riders in this group, Kreuziger and Vincenzo Nibali. And in fact, as we speak, it looks as if Andreas Kloden is about to make contact once more with the group of riders who are in the top 7 places overall in this tour.
Never say never. ever in the Tour de France, but I'm afraid he'll go off again now because the white jersey of Andy Schleck grits his teeth. This is a heavy attack. Contador, though, no pressure, looks over his shoulder. Where's brother Frank? And now he's racing for second place here because he can't shed himself of Contador, and he really would like Frank to go with him to try and get Frank up into that third place overall.
What he's trying to do is act as a launch pad for his own brother Frank Schleck. That's why he keeps jumping off the front of this group, waiting for Frank to respond. But look at Mr. Armstrong, number 22 there. He's seen all of these tactics played out many times before as he gets himself behind the wheel there of Bradley Wiggins. He wants to keep an eye on Frank Schleck to see if Frank Schleck has got it in his legs to attack across to this group of two. The man in the yellow jersey, he's not going to help Andy Schleck at all because he is trying to defend the position of his own teammate Lance Armstrong and keep Armstrong in third place as this race goes forward to Paris.
Frank Schleck has got to beat Lance Armstrong by 39 seconds if he is going to climb over him and onto third place in the platform. And now it's Vandenbroek. He's having a little dig. They won't chase him. He's not really a danger. So they're looking at each other here. Wiggins is waiting for a move. Nibali is a little bit adrift to the field, so they can even give the man in the turquoise jersey the chance. But this field has become a battle for third place.
Well, Roman Kreuziger has taken off from the group as well, Phil, because he could see that everybody was starting to watch each other. He knows exactly what's going on here. Jose Ivan Gutierrez is doing an excellent job there. He was in that early morning breakaway. He's been picked up by these guys, and he's now setting the tempo. Well, Armstrong has to concentrate on Frank Schleck and Bradley Wiggins.
Armstrong has dropped to the back to keep an eye on both of them. Undisputably, these two are 1 and 2 in the Tour de France, and I can't see that changing at all. Who will finish third? We're talking of seconds across the spread, and now there's a move again, and I think that's Nibali who's gone.
Well, it was Nibali trying to get across to his teammate Roman Kreuziger. Again, Armstrong isn't concerned about any of those riders. He's concerned about the man in the white jersey directly in front of him. Frank Schleck from Luxembourg starts the day in 6th place overall, but I don't think he's got the legs, Phil, that he had a couple of days ago on the slopes of the Alps.
He just doesn't look that good, does he? Now, Nibali is looking for the best part of 2 minutes over the Armstrong group to claim third place, so he won't be reacted quite as fast as perhaps the others. This is still Cloden here, and again didn't quite get on. He was so unlucky. Andy Schleck attacked just when he was about to hitch up. Contador is doing nothing here except following wheels, setting himself up for a possible win. The packs are splitting up. Contador and Schleck have gone ahead now. All the other boys are all together.
Well, again, another acceleration coming from number 31. The rider sitting on the back there must be wondering what is he doing in a situation like this. Maxime Bouet, he was in that early group of 16 riders picked up by the heads of state of the Tour de France this afternoon. Look at the way Contador looks so fluid when he gets out of the saddle. He can respond to anything that Andy Schleck can throw at him this afternoon.
Yes, there can't be many left up the front of that original 16-man group now. We seem to have caught quite a lot of them. We know we still have the 2 leaders up the front, which is Gerarte and Martin, and Christophe Riblon, who got dropped by the 2 leaders, is still up there as well. As we are with them now. This is Gerarte here, started all the action at the bottom of the climb. Tony Martin looking a little bit fatigued here, but he's only a young man, and he's looking at a great future in the Tour de France and in professional cycling. Further down, it looks for the moment at least, Bouet is going to hang on to these two, the yellow and white jersey of the Tour. Kreuziger and Vincenzo Nibali are together.
Well, they were for a while anyway. This is why you have to be very careful, Phil, on the slopes of a climb like this. This is Nibali slipping backwards here because of the acceleration. And again, another recovery there. And this is a phenomenal move coming by Vincenzo Nibali because he's riding himself across to the yellow jersey group.
Well, he really put his head down. He went up, he caught Kreuziger, he's dropped him, and he's gone straight up now. This is an interesting scenario because if Nibali gets around a minute 50 over Lance Armstrong, he'll be in third place in the Tour de France. So they've got to react to this one now.
Well, I think they do. He started the day 7 minutes and 15 seconds behind Alberto Contador in the standings, and quite a way behind Andy Schleck too. He's the 2nd place rider in the best young rider classification, but here he could be moving himself into the top 5.
Well, that's his move. He gets a minute 50. He'll move himself to 3rd overall in the race. I don't know whether there's time left. There's still 8 kilometers to climb to the top of Mont Ventoux. We'll change direction at Chalet-Raynon about 2 or 3 kilometres before we get there. Now, look, Wiggins has made a little bit of a move here as Lance got the energy to actually come through. Frank Schleck, it looks like it might be a good move here by Bradley Wiggins.
Well, Wiggins has put the pressure on this group now. He knows he has to get rid of Lance Armstrong if he's going to leapfrog the Texan and get himself onto the podium. It was a good acceleration, but immediately was covered by number 23 there, Andreas Kloden, and Armstrong pulling himself back into the group to stay in contact.
Well, Wiggins looks pretty composed. If you can ride to the front, you're feeling good. There's no doubt about that. He took a look over at Kreuziger, who's dropping away here. We've gone back up to the leader, Juan Manuel Garate. Rabobank could do with some results in this Tour de France, and this man would be a good winner at the summit. It's 1:46 to the Groupe Maillot Jaune, and then we're looking at 2 minutes and 6 seconds to Lance Armstrong's group.
Well, this is a very strange situation that Andy Schleck, Phil, is finding himself in. He's finding himself in a position where he keeps looking over his shoulder to say, where is Frank? Where's my brother? How can I help him to get into 3rd place overall? He knows his own 2nd place overall at the start of the day is fairly solid. But what he really wants to do, he would really like to try and leapfrog his brother, number 36 there, Frank, into 3rd place. But I don't think he's got it in his legs.
Franco Pelazzotti, the king of the mountains, comes up just a little bit off the back of the pace, but I think he's climbing himself back into this at the moment. These people have been standing right on both sides of the road since we started the climb today. And this is Kreuziger, who's now falling away. Kuczynski from the breakaway, sorry. Kuczynski from the early break is now been joined by Pelazzotti as we catch up with the Maillot Jaune here of Alberto Contador. Another acceleration from Andy Schleck, and again Contador just lifts the pace and goes with him. Seemingly no problems. Nibali quickly answers just about as they three are going again. In fact, Andy is using the motorbikes there as a target to try and chase them, but they get away from him.
Well, it's their job to get out of the way. This battle, these accelerations remind me a little bit of the battlefield that we had up here in the year 2000 when Marco Pantani and Armstrong were going head-to-head, and the little Italian climber Pantani just kept accelerating and accelerating, trying to distance Armstrong, and he couldn't. And that seems to be exactly the same thing that's happening to Andy Schleck with Alberto Contador.
This is Kreuziger here being picked up by the Astana-led group, and this is Kloden, Armstrong. Here we are. Pelazzotti's got to them, and Van den Broek looked over to see who's joined them. There is Bradley Wiggins, who is on a good day. I'm convinced of that now. Frank Schleck is on a bad day, and Armstrong, his day's just going wonderful just now. He is holding his 3rd place in the Tour de France.
Got less than 7.5 kilometres to go to the summit. Doesn't sound very far, does it? But we haven't even, Phil, yet climbed out of the tree line, and that's when this climb really starts to grip and get that little bit more difficult. It goes up to the summit, and the last 3 kilometres are in excess of 10%, but the wind may then become the ally of Lance Armstrong and prevent any further attacks from the climbers.
It'll hit them on the nose, and that could slow them down and destroy any strength they might feel as though they still got. Contador and Schleck have gone clear now of the chase group containing Armstrong, Wiggins, Kloden and brother Frank Schleck, and I think that might hamper the chase. This is Tony Martin still riding in tandem with Juan Manuel Garate.
Well, the gap's come down to the yellow jersey group, but these riders now only holding 1 minute and 15 seconds advantage over the group containing Andy Schleck and Alberto Contador and Vincenzo Nibali. And again, the acceleration coming hard from Andy Schleck, trying to put under pressure the man in the yellow jersey. But, you know, Johan Brunel told us a couple of years ago that Alberto Contador was one of the best climbers he'd ever seen in his life. Such was his ability to accelerate and accelerate again.
And this is the AG2R rider who was in the breakaway here. I think it's Christophe Rebon who's suddenly gone straight back there. He wasn't far behind the 2 leaders. He's been swept up now. Very shortly, these boys are going to catch Martin and Garate, and they're going to be the leaders on the road as well.
Well, Alberto Contador on his own now. He doesn't have any teammates with him to help, but Andy Schleck doesn't have anyone there either. Bradley Wiggins, just over on the right-hand side, is riding a phenomenal performance, Phil, and I don't think he's going to get rid of Lance Armstrong here this afternoon, but if he finishes the Tour de France in 4th place, he will equal the performance of the Scot Robert Miller.
Yeah, and he hoped a good performance, he said, at the start in Monaco, top 20. And here he is riding Mont Ventoux. 24 hours from the finish in Paris, sitting in 4th place. What a shame he didn't produce the goods like he normally would do in the time trial. It was just one race too far for him.
There's the second group on the road. The race situation now, there are only 2 riders left in front of the yellow jersey group. It's the 2 riders not too far away at 1 minute and 15 seconds. Juan Manuel Garate, the former champion of Spain, and Tony Martin of Team Columbia HTC. Andy Schleck looking over his shoulder. What's going on? He wonders why his brother Frank Schleck cannot come across. The 2 Schlecks were so dominated going through the Alpsville, but then all of a sudden, I think Frank Schleck, the difficult thing is we've come to the end of 3 weeks of racing, and it's the rider who's recovered the most who has got the chance of a great ability of a ride on this climb of Mont Ventoux.
And that attack by Alberto Contador on the Col de Colombier, which got rid of Andreas Klöden. Must be regretting that a little bit now, because he took the 2 Schlecks away down to victory and if he hadn't have carried them away to victory, then he may have been finding that Lance and Klöden would be in 2nd and 3rd in this race. That would have been a 1-2-3 for Astana. But that's history now. This is the battle for the podium. And Schleck looking across, he's actually asking Nibali to come and take some pacemaking off him. I think they're slowing it right down. They could come back into this behind.
Well, the problem is that Andy Schleck has not been able to do what he wanted to. First of all, he has 2 things that he needs to do on this final mountaintop finish. He needs to get rid of Alberto Contador. He's seen that he's not been able to do that. So what he would like to do now is maybe ease up and wait for his brother and try and snap the elastic between his brother and Lance Armstrong. And that way he could drag Frank Schleck up into a possible podium position.
Well, we'll drop back to the Christophe Le Mervel battle here for 9th and 10th place. That's Mervel in the white, Christian van der Velde. Astolosa is 1 second behind Le Mervel on the overall classification. They're both riding the mountain together. It's quite amazing, really. We're fast approaching now Chaly Reynard, and then we'll swing round to the left. The trees will disappear. They'll feel the wind then. And in fact, he's just gone round the corner here, Tony Martin, so he's on the last approach to Mont Ventoux now. And it's 5.8 kilometres of real tough road.
Well, you know, they have closed it down in the yellow jersey group, and maybe Andy Schleck has decided to sit up and wait for his brother and see whether he can just force that gap, because if you look at the time gap to the 2 leaders, they've opened it up from 1:15 back up to 1 minute 45.
Well, the group is climbing back. There they are. They've got them in sight, and Schleck has waited for brother Frank to see if he can do anything for him and maybe attack with him towards the top. But look at this. Armstrong and Klöden have got control of this chase group again. They've just lifted the pace enough. They're going to be back alongside the white and yellow jerseys. Astana are running out as the team winners of the Tour as well. Look at the crowd here. This is Chaly Reynard now as the riders swing for the summit, and attacked by Pellizotti as the flag of the United Kingdom's on the road there. And they're there for Bradley Wiggins, and he's right here.
Well, I tell you what, yesterday on the run-in towards the finish, Franco Pellizotti, Phil, sat up with around about 20 kilometres to go. He was dropped on the final climb. Tactically, very clever. He didn't dig into his reserves yesterday to try and conserve something special for this afternoon, just in case there was some infighting with the top men in the overall classification. He leads the King of the Mountains classification, but he's a top bike rider. Finished 3rd in the Giro d'Italia, won himself a stage, and now he's maybe going to take advantage of the marking of the heads of state of this group.
Well, I've never seen scenes like this on Mont Ventoux in my life. There are probably 600,000 or 700,000 people on the climb today. There's been a solid line from the bottom in Bedouin. Pellizotti knows he's not marked by the race, and he's trying to run away with the day's win, and that's a fitting result when you're King of the Mountains. But the battle for seconds in the podium in Paris is still here. Nobody will counter the move of Pellizotti. If he's got the legs to catch the other 2, he could win this stage today.
Frank Schleck, he's going back to see if he can find out where Andy's going back to see where brother Frank is, to just try and figure out what's going on. Why can't you follow me on the attacks here this afternoon? If you want to finish on the podium, mate, we've got to get clear as soon as possible.
Well, these are the 2 leaders here, Tony Martin, and with him is Juan Manuel Garate. The fast approach now of the Polka Dot King of the Mountains winner, Franco Pellizotti, and the flags on the mountain here are for the United Kingdom. And with Mark Cavendish, Wiggins and Miller, we have had, we being the UK, a great Tour de France this year. The leaders are just inside 5 kilometers from the summit now. The battle for the podium is here. So this is they've come and merged together now as Wiggins looks for that 5 kilometer banner, 3 miles from the summit. You cannot get bigger crowds than this on Mont Ventoux. I don't know how we're holding them all here. Goodness knows where their cars are. We're inside 5 kilometers from the summit. Luis Leon Sanchez, this is about the 3rd group on the road right now, with Van der Velde there as well. The battle between Astolosta and Le Mervel, split by 1 second overall for 9th and 10th. But we're waiting for the arrival of Pelazzotti up with the leaders.
Well, picking up the riders, that's Daniele Righi, who was in the early morning break of 16 riders. The race situation now just 2 leaders, chased by Franco Pelazzotti at 1 minute and 32 seconds. Jurgen van den Broek of Belgium there has seen the opportunity of maybe getting himself a stage victory, but they're looking for a further 30 seconds, and he's riding away from the yellow jersey group. There is a lot of infighting in that yellow jersey group. They're all watching each other, all trying to defend the position at the start of the day.
Again, no reason to chase Van den Broek. This is the battle here, and the longer it takes before they split it up, the less likely it is to change the overall classification. That means it'll be in favour of Lance Armstrong. Wiggins started the day 15 seconds behind Lance Armstrong. He needs to get 16 seconds to go over him. 5 kilometers to the summit. This very select group, the top men in the Tour de France, are climbing Mont Ventoux in front of an enormous crowd, and they're climbing it together. These are the 2 men who still lead. This man is coming fast and flying towards them, Franco Pelazzotti.
No, he certainly is. He's almost half the gap there, down to 1 minute and 20 seconds on the 2 leaders. He's ridden very sensibly over these last couple of days. Whenever he felt that he wasn't going to get himself any more points, he sat up and conserved as much energy as possible. I saw that yesterday when he sat up on the slopes of the climb towards the top, and he just rode down towards the finish line, lost himself 4 or 5 minutes, didn't care about that at all because he has no position in the overall classification, and for him this is a very serious move.
The face of Lance Armstrong, who's come back to the Tour de France after a 4-year retirement, is still riding as good as the best riders in the world. Next year, I think he'll be back to try and win this race again. He tried this time, but he wasn't quite race fit enough, I don't think.
Well, Andreas Kloden is setting the tempo just in front of Lance Armstrong. There's a big confusion in front of them, though, because all of the motorbikes are being shouted at by the race referee. Get out of the way, they're telling them, and they need to, because this is setting up an attack for Schleck.
Attack through the cars for Andy Schleck, so they better pull away quickly. Brother Frank this time has hooked up to the train. This is it. This is the one, all or nothing, as he paces his brother away. Now Lance Armstrong, Bradley Wiggins has got to react.
Well, on this wheel there is Alberto Contador. Andreas Kloden has gone out of the back, but Armstrong was on the wheel of Alberto Contador, and I think he's clawed his way back into this group. There is Christophe Riblon slipping backwards, and Armstrong is right on the wheel of Contador and on the wheel of Frank Schleck. Thank you very much.
Schleck looks over his shoulder, wry smile. They've jumped right into the slipstream of the train, and now the pace will slow again. Bradley Wiggins has never climbed like this in his life. Armstrong has, but he shows now 4 years on he can still climb like this.
Looking over his shoulder, Frank cannot believe that Armstrong has responded. He probably can't believe that so too has Bradley Wiggins, because if he can get rid of Bradley Wiggins, this acceleration was taking advantage, Phil, of the motorbikes that were just in front. They were accusing Alberto Contador the other day of taking advantage of the motorbike. It's the bike riders' possibility to use the motorbikes. It's the motorbikes' responsibility to get out of the way of the race.
Well, that group with the yellow jersey is around about 4.1 kilometers from the summit. The leaders themselves are 3.3 kilometers now from the summit, and here they are, and they are very, very tired. Pelazzotti is coming, but he's not got them yet. Garate and Tony Martin, the heroes of a full day in the lead. Yes, there were 16 at one stage. These are the last 2, and they're just counting the meters to the summit of the Ventoux. And here he comes, the polka dot king of the mountains. Franco Pelazzotti is trying to run them down in sight of the flag.
And how perfect would that be if the king of the mountains at the Tour de France comes away with a victory on top of one of the most fabled mountains of the Tour de France. Again, Andy Schleck says, right, I'm going to test you boys one more time. Frank sitting on his wheel comfortably there, waiting for the acceleration. Armstrong moving onto the wheel of Frank Schleck. Alberto Contador sitting behind him, and Bradley Wiggins, calm as he wants to be, just sitting there watching all of these accelerations and staying there to hold on to his 4th place overall.
We're looking at 5 very proud athletes here who will not concede literally a single second on this climb. They're racing to the summit. The finishing line awaits them there. Seconds really do count. Oh boy, did we catch Alberto Contador grimace then?
I think there might have been a slight grimace, but I think we can give him permission to do that, especially on the slopes of this climb as he sits there in 4th position. It's a horrendous sight when you look up to the sky there, Phil, because you can see how far it is to go.
Well, Frank Schleck, if he did have a bad start to the climb, it looks as though Bradley's unhitched here. He's just cracked, and he's cracked it around 3 kilometers from the summit. And now he's got to be very careful here because Andreas Kloden, I think, is also behind. So Wiggins is holding on to his 4th place at the moment. But Frank Schleck could be claiming it because he's only 23 seconds behind Wiggins for the 4th place. And that is why Andy will continue to pace his brother now. If they can get 24 seconds ahead of Bradley Wiggins, they will have Frank Schleck into 4th.
Well, Wiggins has come back. He's come back there, Phil. He knew what was happening to him. He just felt that he had to recover there. He dug really deep. He could feel his 4th place slipping away. Then all of a sudden, he found that little bit extra to ride back onto the wheel of these guys.
And you know, they may not have realized he'd unhitched here. He's gone for the shortest way around the corner. That's a wise move, and looking straight across at him, Andy Schleck, so he's seen he's still there. He just keeps up the tempo. Back into the slipstream, Bradley, stay there.
Well, he can stay there, Phil, because it's a headwind for these riders at about 27 kilometers an hour, so the best place to be is sitting in that line of riders. I think that's quite fortunate for Bradley Wiggins. A moment of miscommunication maybe with him, and all of a sudden he was off the back, recovered, puts himself back into 4th place overall. Franco Pelazzotti is looking up to the finish, but it's still 2.5 kilometers away.
Can Franco catch up, or should we start to dream with the 2 boys up front? A nearly race-long breakaway and victory at the end of the day. Pelazzotti was going good. He looks a bit tired now. Here's the tempo here, being stamped out by a brilliant Andy Schleck. He's the younger, by the way, of the brothers. Armstrong, so familiar with that style of his, just out of the saddle, eases up on the back wheel of Frank Schleck. He decided at the start of the day, wherever Frank went, Lance Armstrong would follow.
Well, Armstrong had that fixed in his mind, I would say, this morning, Phil, at the team meeting, that I will go wherever Frank Schleck goes. Bradley Wiggins is pulling himself inside out here, trying to stay at the top end of this race. He started, as you said, Phil, with ambitions of maybe getting inside of the top 20. Then he started to nurture ambitions of maybe getting inside of the top 10. Now he's hoping to stay in 4th place overall, and that's a phenomenal performance by a man who's got an incredible pedigree coming back from the track.
And he's just easing off the back here. Just close your eyes, Bradley, and accelerate if you can. You are so close to the top of the mountain. The leaders have 2 kilometers to go now. 61 seconds is the gap. Lance Armstrong won the 2003 Tour by 61 seconds. We're now looking here at Armstrong sitting on the back wheel of Frank Schleck. He only has to hold him to finish 3rd tomorrow in the Tour de France. Nibali is still there. He sits 7th. Wiggins is losing ground. He's going to have to come back here, otherwise Frank Schleck might be dragged to it by his brother to get 4th place in the Tour.
Well, Wiggins has pulled himself back. He's on and off this group, Phil. He is riding with sheer courage this afternoon. He realizes how important it is to stay in contact with this group. Frank Schleck looks over his shoulder again and says, well, I don't know. I can't understand why we can't get rid of that Brit. Well, he's tenacious, isn't he?
Well, Bradley Wiggins suffered for just 4 minutes and 15 seconds to win Olympic gold medals, but now he's had to struggle for an hour through all kinds of pain. But he's learned to do that in this year's Tour de France, and he's risen through the ashes and he's hanging on. And this man knows he's hurting everybody, but all he wants to do is get his brother out of this group and up the road.
That's what they started, their ambition of the day was, but they're not going to really have very much chance to gap anyone, I think, here, Phil, with this very strong 25-mile-an-hour headwind. all of the guys behind, they're getting the advantage. It's quite rare to get the advantage of slipstreaming on the slopes of a climb like this, but when you've got a blockhead wind at 40 kilometers an hour, it is an advantage to sit behind the guy in front of you.
Well, these two boys are looking over the shoulders. Who is coming? And here he is, Franco Pelazzotti. His face a real pain now, but this is one of effort as he tries to reach. He's 39 seconds behind the two leaders. They're 1.5 kilometers from the summit, while the real action to win the Tour de France is there.
Well, Frank Schleck moved back down into the slipstream of Armstrong. Maybe he's planning one final attack before he gets towards the summit. Andy Schleck looking over to see what the situation is like.
Well, as they continue to climb here, I hope you're enjoying this 1 hour commercial-free, thanks to Chrysler, of the Battle of Mont Ventoux, the battle for the Tour de France. The pain on the Ventoux, the pain on the face of Andreas Klöden, who sits in 5th place overall in the Tour de France, 1 place and just 2 seconds behind Bradley Wiggins. As the attack comes again, this surely will explode the group. Where does this man kick like that from?
Yeah, where does Lance Armstrong get it from as well?
He's amazing.
Because he's right in there on the slope, on the wheel of Alberto Contador, and they've gapped Frank.
Well, they've gapped Frank and they've gapped Wiggins, so if they've gapped Frank, they're going to have to hang up here, because the first 3 riders in the overall classification of the Tour de France ride in front of our cameras now. The white jersey of Andy Schleck, the yellow jersey of Contador, the blue jersey of Lance Armstrong. They are together, and this is the way they will be on the podium tomorrow in Paris.
Garate has gone. He sees and knows that there's a return coming from behind, and he's now thinking about the possibility of getting to the finish on his own. He's got 47 seconds over the yellow jersey group, and this is the move that he had to make if he's going to resolve the Tour de France of Team Rabobank. They've not had very much luck at all throughout the whole of this tour, and he could relinquish that today.
Well, this will be the biggest win of his life if he stays away for a victory on Mont Ventoux. He's made his move at just on 1 kilometer to go. I'm not sure we'll see any banners now, because the wind has blown them away. I think they're all in Marseille, quite honestly. As we look here now at the white jersey again. Oh, he's beginning to look as though he's getting tired, Paul, but what a rider.
What a man. He has thrown every attack that he can at Alberto Contador and Lance Armstrong to try and dislodge Contador. He's not been able to do that at all. He's not been able to do that with Armstrong either. This is a little bit of a difficult moment for this man, and this is Vincenzo Nibali sliding backwards. It's also difficult for Brad Wiggins.
He's coming back. I believe he's holding them in his sights. He's got to hold on. He can still hold his 4th place here.
He just has to get himself into a rhythm that is comfortable, so he tries to limit his losses over this final 1.5 kilometers to the summit of the Mont Ventoux. Garate is holding on to 30 or 40 seconds over the yellow jersey group, and he may well start to nurture dreams of winning. Pelazzotti's at 22.
Frank Schleck, who is up here, is 24 seconds he requires over Bradley Wiggins to take his 4th place off him, and Wiggins is just about holding them in sight, but that acceleration earlier by Schleck has almost brought them up here to Pelazzotti.
Well, Pelazzotti looks over his shoulder. He's starting to learn why this climb is a climb that needs to be respected. It's a beast of a climb in the heart of Provence. Andy Schleck again out of the saddle. He really has had the legs this afternoon, but he's not been able to outfox and outwit Alberto Contador or Lance Armstrong. He never ceases to keep looking over his shoulder, and the reason he's doing that, Phil, is he's trying to look after his own brother.
Well, this is all a
Tony Martin's come back.
Tony Martin has come back up to the leader here, so it's still 2 as they approach. We've got a banner up here, and I'm not sure what it will be, because it's got nothing on it. It should say 1 kilometer to go. I don't see a kite, but it could be exactly a kilometer from the finish now. Martin is back in here. Huge efforts required. Will there be enough lull in the action behind to give them their head? What a brilliant 1-2 that would be.
Well, there you can see the flags indicating how strong these crosswinds are, and there a little bit further back is probably the group, and one rider still in front of the yellow jersey group, and it's still Franco Pelazzotti. Alberto Contador just dancing on those pedals of his on the slipstream of Andy Schleck. Armstrong is doing a phenomenal performance here this afternoon, Phil. I had a feeling at one stage that he might have been put under pressure, but that's not going to be the case.
Well, Armstrong has never seemed under pressure. Contador has always been at or near his side, looking at him there to check on him, just like this rider has searched for his brother to try and pull the last ounce of strength out of his brother's body to dispose of Bradley Wiggins and Lance Armstrong. The only chance now for Frank Schleck is to replace Bradley, and that's not enough time. Bradley, you've got to ride your heart out now because you are holding 4th place by the skin of your racing shorts.
Yeah, he started the day at 5:36, but more importantly, what he did was started the day 1 second ahead of Cloden. Cloden's behind him on the road, but he's looking at about 23 seconds.
He's got to get he must not lose 24 seconds. It's as simple as that. If he doesn't, he'll hold 4th.
Well, looking over his shoulder, Andy Schleck once again. They've pulled Pelizzotti back into the fold. Armstrong is still there and still looking comfortable. There is now only 2 riders up the road in front of this group. And here's the big sprint.
This is the finish now, and Garate a little bit stronger, much more experienced than Tony Martin, a rider who we think one day could win the Tour de France. Today he'll finish 2nd on Mont Ventoux because Garate, the first man to attack the mountain, has finished it off. He's got the stage win. Now the times that matter are right here.
Well, Armstrong sitting there on the wheel of Andy Schleck, and he was on the defensive today. He knew he had to do a special performance to stay right at the top. And there, Phil, you're looking at 1st, 2nd and 3rd in the overall classification. Andy Schleck, Lance Armstrong and Alberto Contador.
Well, this is a victory for Alberto Contador in the Tour de France now, as he follows the man in the white jersey. He might even try to take him, I'm not so sure. He's still watching Lance Armstrong, making sure he's with him as they come up to the line. It is Andy Schleck who's got 2nd. Contador salutes as winner of the Tour de France, and Armstrong is there. Frank Schleck is there. Now, if it comes up as 109 on the clock, then Wiggins will lose his 4th place in the Tour. So 109 is my count. There might be a second out. Watch out for Wiggins now. Can he get up here before that clock? Yes, he can. Well done, Bradley Wiggins.
He pulled himself inside out there, Phil. Look at that man. He's pushed himself into the oxygen debt that took him to 3 Olympic gold medals just to hold on a little bit further down. These guys are trying to defend their positions in the top 10 in the overall classification. This is Christophe Lemaivel, behind him the American Christian van der Velde.
Well, these are the remnants of the mountain climbers now, but what a race we have seen. This is Vandenberg. Cloden has lost a little bit of time here. He was coming up the mountain in 5th place in the overall. I think he might well stay in 6th place now. He'll have lost out to Frank Schleck. Maybe he's lost out to Nibali, but I don't think so. But the clock will decide, of course. But that was a desperate finish by Bradley Wiggins, and he'll hold on to his high finish in the Tour now. And this is the rider coming up, Christian van der Velde, his teammate, Wiggins' teammate, who finished 4th last year, and now it'll be Wiggins in that slot.
Well, they've defended perfectly over the final few kilometres. They rode extremely well at Garmin to put their man Bradley Wiggins at the front end of the race as they started the climb. But this has been a courageous ride by this man too, Christophe Lemaivel. He moved into the top 10 because of his place into a breakaway, and he's defended exceptionally well through all of the Alps and in the individual time trial, and he's going to finish probably at the end of the day in 8th or 9th place overall.
Well, the American Garmin Slipstream will be happy tonight because I think Van der Velde, here he comes, has done enough to retain his 8th place overall in this year's Tour, to marry up to his 4th place last year. And remember, he came here after quite a bad injury, to say the least, in the Giro d'Italia. Well, this is the final sorting out of the Tour de France, because tomorrow we head up to Paris and we'll see a good race, but it, by tradition, won't alter the overall positions. This was the battleground today.
It certainly was. Daniel Righi, another survivor of that early morning breakaway of 16 riders. But Andy Schleck did everything he could to try and dislodge Bradley Wiggins and Lance Armstrong to try and benefit his brother Frank, but it certainly was not going to happen.
Well, there is the desolate heights here of Mont Ventoux. Nothing grows there, deforested many, many years ago for the use for the wood for building boats. and never regrew. Nothing grows up here. It's so cold. What a wonderful hour that was on Versa. I hope you all agree. We'll take our usual break now, get our breath back, sort out the podium, see if we can find anybody to interview. I'm sure we can. It was a great end to the Tour de France, wasn't it? Of course, it finishes tomorrow. We'll see you in just a moment.
I have been to the Edge and back. Excuse me?
The Edge Pizza from Pizza Hut is back.
Pizza is about toppings. The Edge has no outer crust. The Edge is toppings that keep toppings on going. That keep right on Taste going. The Edge. I say let go of your crust, my friend, brother, sister. I have been to the Edge and back. Join me.
Go to the Edge. Get a medium for just $9.99. Now you're eating America's favorite pizza. Pizza Hut.
The Elitch Gardens Summer Concert Series takes the stage Saturday nights beginning May 9th through August 1st. Your season pass to Elitch Gardens is now your concert pass, as all 14 concerts are free with your park admission. With everything from pop to country, there's a variety of live music for everybody in our awesome outdoor venue. Don't miss Raven Simone Saturday, July 25th, starting at 7 p.m. at the Elitch Arena. Don't miss out on any of our 14 concerts. Buy your season pass today.
In Denver, Colorado, at the Denver Coliseum, comes an event where tickets start at $20. It's World Wrestling Entertainment. See the Game Triple H in a battle against the Viper Randy Orton for the WWE Championship, plus MVP Big Show and more. It's SummerSlam Tour in Denver. Tickets are on sale now, starting at $20. WWE, the best value in entertainment.
Championships, it's not about wrapping yourself in newfound glory. It's about wrapping yourself in old glory.
Kelly Saunders Nature Valley. The place that inspires her to go faster and slower. Elk Mountains, Colorado. Where's yours? 100% natural Nature Valley granola bars. The taste nature intended.
A lot has changed.
You're right.
This Tuesday, think fast, live furious. For a limited time only, own the 2-disc special edition.
Ride or die.
Including the original short film, Los Bandoleros, Fast and Furious. Own it Tuesday.
Ground control. We have a problem. Switching to lithium power.
I feel better already.
Energizer Ultimate Lithium, the world's longest lasting AA battery and high-tech devices. Energizer, keep going.
Here's the thing that makes life so interesting. The theory of evolution claims only the strong shall survive. Maybe so. Maybe so. But the theory of competition says just because they're the strong doesn't mean they can't get their asses kicked. That's right. See, what every long shot come from behind underdog will tell you is this. The other guy may in fact be the favorite. The odds may be stacked against you. Fair enough. But what the odds don't know is this isn't a math test. This is a completely different kind of test. One where passion has a funny way of trumping logic. So before you step up to the starting line, before the whistle blows and the clock starts ticking, just remember, out here, the results don't always add up. No matter what the stats may say, and the experts may think, and the commentators may have predicted, when the race is on, all bets are off. Don't be surprised if somebody decides to flip the script and take a pass on yelling uncle. And then suddenly, as the old saying goes, we got ourselves a game.
Welcome back, and this is our Trek aerial view of the top of Mont Ventoux, the last big target of the stars of the Tour de France today, and we saw a battle royale.
We certainly did. Andy Schleck was imperial, but he didn't get what he wanted on this day. He wanted, first of all, to try and gap Alberto Contador. He wasn't going to get away with that, and he also wanted to try and leapfrog his own brother, Frank Schleck, up into third place overall. But Lance Armstrong was also pretty imperial because he responded to all of the attacks by the Luxembourgers.
Well, let's begin our podiums with the Cadillac performance highlights of how the race went. A breakaway getting clear, always in the shadow of Mont Ventoux today because they went around the mountain before they climbed it. 25 kilometers to go. They were heading for the start town of Bédoin, and that's where it all begins. Astana took control and split the race in the crosswinds.
They certainly did. Whenever it looked dangerous, Team Astana were very much in control. A 16-man leading group, though, had opened up the road to the start of the Mont Ventoux, and as they hit the first kilometers, only 3 men survived.
Yes, they were reduced to Garate, Martin and Reblon, and here they are. A massive crowd, the biggest we've ever seen on Mont Ventoux. They all came out expecting a great showdown, and they got it for sure. As we climbed up towards the empty spaces at the top, it became a race of the 7 Tour riders in the top 7 positions.
Yes, and Lance Armstrong, under the assistance of his teammates, covered every move that Frank Schleck threw at him. Frank Schleck, the Luxembourger who started the day in 6th place overall, was trying to climb up to a podium position, but Armstrong was having nothing of it. Even with the assistance of Andy Schleck, the younger brother from Luxembourg as well, they could do nothing at all to gap the Texan. They could do nothing either to put into difficulty the overall leader, Alberto Contador, who covered every move that was thrown at him on the slopes of this climb.
He never moved off the wheel of Andy Schleck. He never attacked once. He wanted Armstrong to stay in contention with him, while the same applied to Andy Schleck. He wanted to lead his brother Frank away. Bradley Wiggins tucked in nicely. He followed every move until the very end, but he did conserve his final 4th place overall.
Again, Andy Schleck throwing all kinds of attacks at this group, and every time he did, he moved off the front, but he always had his shadow, and his shadow was a yellow one. It was Alberto Contador, who was always in contact. But Andy Schleck had something else in the back of his mind. He really wanted to try and create a situation where his brother Frank could climb up to 3rd place overall, but every tactic they adopted failed.
And every time Frank made a move, the gadfly of the mountain, Lance Armstrong, just followed him. This man must have attacked 5 times at least on the climb and always looked over to check on the whereabouts of brother Frank. Lance Armstrong, he decided to drop to the back and just survey everybody and see what was going on. He just kept a close eye on Wiggins and Frank Schleck, and he knew his 3rd place in Paris tomorrow would be his.
And that was one thing he had in the back of his mind all through the slopes of this Mont Ventoux this afternoon. He got some assistance from his own teammate, Andreas Kloden, on a number of occasions, but all he had to do was watch one man, the closest man to him, with a threat to the podium, and that was Frank Schleck. Frank Schleck knew that he had to get clear of him and, of course, of Bradley Wiggins, but everybody was on the defensive.
The crowds just got bigger and bigger as we approached the left-hand turn at Chaly-Reynard. It was a massive crowd now. A lot of those flags from America as they watched the attack and counter-attack, the bluff and counter-bluff of the 7 riders that could alter the face of this Tour de France. And taking advantage of that situation, Pelazzotti decided to go for gold because he knew nobody would chase him. He was too far behind them overall.
Well, he almost got across the gap, but 2 leaders still survived, and still, as we got closer to the summit, Andy Schleck attacked again, this time with his brother right on his wheel. The idea was to try and gap Armstrong, but watch Alberto Contador just a little bit further back. He had Armstrong on his wheel, and slowly he paced the Texan back up to the Schleck brothers.
Meanwhile, it was looking a possibility for the two leaders as they went in towards the last kilometre. Tony Martin up there with Juan Manuel Garate, but that high-speed attack by Schleck did dislodge Bradley Wiggins, but he didn't break his spirit. He tried to stay in touch from afar, and this attack surely would have finished anybody off, but no, they all dug deep, all gritted their teeth, and they all followed Andy Schleck. This boy was on fire, but they knew at the top of this hill was the end of the Tour de France for the GC.
With 1.5 kilometers to go, the former Spanish national champion Juan Manuel Garate decided it was time for him to fly the coupe, and he left Tony Martin behind.
He wouldn't be behind forever, though, because he would rejoin there as came up to them, and but just there was the kilometre kite as Tony Martin made his return, showing he's got a great depth of encouragement and strength down there. While this man was showing a great defiance, Bradley Wiggins was looking ahead at the rear wheel of Frank Schleck. If he was to finish 24 seconds behind him, then he would indeed lose his 4th place overall. On top of the mountain, one of the greatest victories for Juan Manuel Garate, a former champion of Spain, and a big result for Rabobank, who've had such an unlucky tour. Martin, 2nd place for Columbia 8TC. Then came the battle for 3rd. Armstrong hanging on in there, not conceding any time at all, as a vicious show of defiance came from Andy Schleck and a triumphant salute from Alberto Contador. They may have docked Lance a single second over the line. We'll find out shortly. Frank Schleck came in. Nibali, the clock started on Frank Schleck, and now waiting for the arrival of Bradley Wiggins. He had 24 seconds to get in. He got in 20. So he survives in 4th place overall. A world-class pursuiter, now a world-class Tour de France rider. That's the big winning effort there by Garate. He made the first attack when they saw Mont Ventoux on the lower slopes in Bedouin. He finished it off on top of the mountain. 1st and 2nd in the Tour de France 2009, crossed the road together, or the line rather, on Mont Ventoux. Let's have a look then at the stage results, as that was our Cadillac performance highlights. What a day. Manuel Garate at 3 seconds Tony Martin, then 38 seconds Schleck and Contador. They did dock Armstrong just a little bit of time. It doesn't matter in 5th place, so docked him. He came in 41 seconds down, 3 behind the other 2. Frank came in at 43, Kreuziger at 46. The important thing is that Bradley Wiggins came in at 103. If it had come in at 107, he would have lost his 4th place overall. So, as we look down there, it's a busy old scene. Look at that crowd. Hope they don't fall off the mountain. They're waiting for the presentations, as are we, so we'll take a quick break, and then we will be down there on the podium. Well done today to Jose Manuel Garate. And Lance Armstrong interview coming up as well. I bet he's pretty pleased. We'll take a break.
I was afraid. I was petrified.
Kept thinking that each meeting meant that I would have to fly.
But then I spent so many nights
reading emails way too long.
Then I grew strong.
Network video came along, and so I'm back.
No time to waste. Just click the mouse and get things done.
See people face to face.
I should have changed things long ago.
This technology saved the day.
More collaboration, less complication. That's the human network effect. Learn more at cisco.com/newways.
Great choice. I don't know what that means, but if you were to lose your job for some reason, the Sears Buyer Protection Program would cover your purchase until you're working again or your appliance is paid off. You know, should you lose your job.
The Sears Buyer Protection Program. One more way we've got you covered when you use your Sears card. Come in now and save 15% on all appliances. Sears, life well spent.
Stop your auto repair bills now. If you own a car with less than 250,000 miles, you can get an extended warranty that will finally stop your repair bills. Just call now or go to StopRepairBills.com. When you own a car, SUV, or truck, sooner or later it will need repair, and that can cost you thousands of dollars right out of your pocket. Just one transmission job could cost over $3,000. A new engine could cost over $4,000, but you won't have to pay a cent. Call now or visit StopRepairBills.com and we'll cover 100% of the costs. This isn't a dealer's warranty. It's much better and costs less. because you only pay for the coverage you need. You even choose the repair shop, and we pay them directly so you don't wait to be reimbursed. The sooner you call, the sooner you're covered.
Call 1-800-568-0063. A free 5-minute call can save you thousands in auto repair. Call 1-800-568-0063 and stop paying repair bills now.
Miguel Angel Torres. Unbeaten in 5 years. Can undefeated Brian Bowles pose a threat? Ask his last 7 victims. Torres versus Bowles. Live Sunday, August 9th. Only on Versus.
Let's all paint the town red and white, black and brown. Watch the colors dry. They mix so well, it's no surprise. We are all in this together. Let's all build a home, gather up the friends you know. Somewhere we can go. We'll make it.
The hybrid for everyone is here. The Insight, designed and priced for us all, from Honda.
Welcome back as we look across Provence from the highest point in the region around here, from the top of Mont Ventoux. We have seen a superb battle amongst the best bike riders in the world. And now Alberto Contador can go up to Paris tomorrow as winner of this tour. And it wasn't just about the leaders, because Juan Manuel Garate gave Team Rabobank a great result. This man knows he's won the Tour de France now. Let's go down to the podium, Paul. Here's Garate.
Well, you know, he hasn't won a race, Phil, since he won himself a mountain stage of the Giro d'Italia. He's a great climber. He's a former national champion of his country, but this has got to be one of the greatest victories that he has, because everybody wants to win on the slopes of the Mont Ventoux. It's legendary, and now his name will go down in the history books.
And Rabobank have had such an unlucky Tour de France. Denis Menchoff, the winner of the Giro d'Italia, crashing so many times I've lost count. Finally get a stage win here, and so hopefully they've reversed their bad trend. There's the stage result. 3 seconds to breakaway partner Tony Martin. 164 kilometres up front today for those boys. Andy Schleck at 38. Contour the same time. Lance Armstrong docked 3 seconds. Just came in a little bit off the back of the other two. And I think we can go down for the yellow. Yes, there we are. He knows now, Paul, it'll be a day of honour tomorrow. That's his now.
Well, he rode, I think, a very sensible race this afternoon. He had no reason at all to go out onto the attack. He just needed to defend. He needed to make sure that he could cover all of the moves by Andy Schleck, because he knew that they would come. And I lost count of how many times the man from Luxembourg actually attacked him, but it was probably close to 10.
Well, let's have a look at our Hampton Hotels overall standings with a day to go. Contador leads. There's no change really. Lance has lost just those 3 seconds. 4:11 to Schleck. 5:24 now to Armstrong. 6:01 to Bradley Wiggins. And look how close Frank Schleck got. 3 seconds of taking Bradley Wiggins' 4th place off him. Andries Klosen goes down from 5th to 6th. Nibali holds 7th. Van der Velde, a brilliant result for Christian, I think. He holds 8th. Top 10 completed by Christophe Lemavelle. And we can now hear from Lance Armstrong. He's with Frankie Andreu.
Lance, we knew Ventoux was going to come down to Ventoux. You said you wanted 3rd place. How'd the day go for you?
Went good. I felt good. I was a little aggressive at the bottom. Lots of wind, lots of teams riding at the front, but I can't complain. I mean, it was kind of simple. Follow Wiggins and follow Frank Schleck, and I had the legs to do that.
Mission accomplished, 3rd place. You must be happy with that. And how much did the wind play a factor in the race today?
You know, it was not as windy as advertised. It feels windy here, but on the way up, between, you know, a little less than what we thought, and also with the motos. And I gotta tell you, I've never seen so many people on the Ventoux. It seems like, hell, half of America showed up and all of France. I mean, it was so packed, and when you have so many people, it blocks a lot of the wind. And but hey, I can't complain, you know, for an old fart coming in here, getting on the podium with these young guys, not so bad.
All right, thank you.
I actually think the wind dropped this afternoon, Paul, because it was raging up until about 12 o'clock.
Yeah, it certainly did, but I think Armstrong was quite right there. He rode an impressive race. He did exactly what he had to do, and really, that was a remarkable race we've just witnessed.
All right, let's go back to the podium, because I think, and there he is, Franco Pelazzotti has just come out for the polka dot jersey. As I say, he won this a couple of days ago, and he rode proudly in it today to try and steal the stage on those last couple of kilometres. Proved a bridge too far for him, but he is going to win the King of the Mountains title.
No, he certainly is. He got to within 25 seconds of those two leaders, Juan Manuel Garate and, of course, Tony Martin. But I think that headwind towards the end, Phil, really ruffled him.
Well, from the mountains of the deep south in Provence, we're going to the flat roads now of the Champs-Élysées, and that's where it all wraps up tomorrow. We saw a great race today. Tomorrow we can understand all the pomp and circumstance of the Tour de France in Paris.
Well, the 21st stage, the final stage, and the one that all of the sprinters will be dreaming to try and get the victory on. Up and down the Champs-Élysées, turning around the hairpin bend just under the shadow of the Arc de Triomphe, back down the other side around the Place de la Concorde, going underneath the Jardin de Tuileries before coming back up to finish right there on the Champs-Élysées.
And I give you three men who will be involved in the sprint tomorrow: Mark Cavendish, Thor Hushovd and Tyler Farrar. They will go head-to-head to win the most coveted stage for many of any Tour de France, a win in Paris. Our coverage will start tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. As always, expanded coverage coming to you every evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time with Bob Roll and Craig Hummer. The Tour de France today was terrific. It's been terrific every day. Tomorrow will be special for very different reasons. Lance Armstrong's comeback is complete. He'll stand on the podium in Paris tomorrow, so don't miss it. Stay with us here on Versus and enjoy the spectacle. Don't forget, we keep you up to date at our website, versus.com. More than 2 million of you tune in there every day to see what's going on. From everybody here on the Mont Ventoux, we hope you've enjoyed the day, and we'll see you tomorrow for the big finale. Until then, goodbye.